are live. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Tarot Ethics, Part 2, the Nighttime Crew. Hey, hey.
The graveyard
Oh,
shift.
yes, here we are. Okay, so right, I just want to turn off my volume over there so I'm not hearing myself because that's very annoying. There we go. Okay, so, oh my gosh, this is so exciting to have everybody in one room. Oh my gosh, I'm fangirling over here with all of these amazing readers. So, everybody who's watching, hello and welcome. This is Tarot Ethics, and this is part 2 of a panel that we are doing. And here we go. There's the hashtag that I've created. And so, what we're doing is we're getting together and we're having a discussion about ethics in terms of tarot reading and our practices and what we think about that. And part 1 occurred last week, Wednesday, during the daytime at 1 p.m. Eastern. And there was 9 different panelists along with myself, and it went really, really well. A lot was shared. And so, yeah, we're on to part 2 so that more people could join us at a different time in order to accommodate work schedules and such. So, hello, everybody on panel. Welcome, and thank you for joining me. And
Thanks
for having
us.
yes. And I also wanted to mention that this is an ongoing discussion, right? So we invite anybody that's interested to join in the conversation with us by doing a VR or a video response using the hashtag Tarot Ethics. And when you use a hashtag, what that does is it allows us to find your video and then we can put it into a playlist and then the conversation can continue from there. You're going to find that some of these topics, probably a lot of them, are going to overlap from part 1 because, sometimes that happens, but you're probably going to hear some new things and some new insights today too. So I encourage you to watch part 1. It is in the description box below for that link. And we're going to jump right into it because our last show ran about 2.5 hours. And there may be some people on panel who need to exit a little bit sooner than that. So we want to respect everybody's time, everybody on panel, and everybody watching in. So, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to start by going around to each individual and we'll have you introduce yourself and your channel and what you offer. That way, people who are watching know what you're about, what you offer on your channel, and if you also offer any services as well in terms of reading or any other divination services that you may offer. And I'm also going to, okay, remove that. All right, perfect. So we will start with Elizabeth, since you're right next to me, and go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Elizabeth, and my channel is The More Intuitive Me. I do a variety of things on the channel. I do some tarot journaling. I love to do spreads on the channel, deck flip throughs or comparisons. I really like to pair up decks. And I do a lot of readings in the sense that I like to film the readings that I'm doing and share them publicly. So that's what I do on the channel. Really, I use tarot for self-reflection. I don't read professionally, but I do read for entertainment purposes, and I enjoy it.
Awesome.
May I be the first to say you are a very stunning woman.
Yes, I
Aw.
agree.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. Yes. So yeah, there was somebody in the chat saying that there was some buffering going on. Is it on my end or is it like the
No,
whole
it's on
stream in
Jess.
general?
It was Jess was buffering. She couldn't get in properly.
No. It was YouTube was buffering the video for a
Oh,
bit.
was it?
Yeah.
Oh, YouTube. Okay. Yeah, just let me
Oh,
know because
I'm
I
on.
am using a different device. So
It
just
seems
let
like
me
it's
know and I
okay
can.
right now, but it was definitely buffering for a few people.
I'm watching on my phone, so I'm behind.
Ew. Okay. All right. And we have the lovely Miss Tarot D.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, I have to say this, Elizabeth. Just because you read for entertainment purposes, you're still reading professionally. So you are a professional reader, please. You might not charge, but you are a professional. So yeah, so I have my OnlyFans page. Oh wait, that's a different. I get confused because I do spreads on both. You know, Ramon.
Why? Why do you? Okay.
And the fact that none of us saw that coming makes me nervous.
Right? Tom saw it coming.
Gerald, Gerald always shakes his head at me. He's like the strict schoolmaster that keeps me grounded. So, so yeah, so like many of you, been reading a great deal of time. I enjoy reading Tara and Oracle. My channel, I like to do spreads. I like instructional videos, instructional. And I, by the way, I was just telling Elizabeth before this, I actually recorded a new spread, the Inner Child Tara spread, that'll be coming out over the weekend. So keep an eye out for it. I like doing lives with my Tara community. You are all so much fun and so loving and so caring, and it just raises my vibration and puts some positivity back in my life. And I like doing readings. And something I just did two interpersonal live readings, and I realized how much I've missed that. I haven't had the opportunity to do that as often because sometimes I come on shows like this and we read for people, but I like the back and forth conversation. I think it just adds to the reading. So that's my channel. That's what I do. I like to wear makeup and I like to wear funny hats and wigs, and
So when do we get to see you in makeup?
Wow.
It
It
took
looks
8
so
hours to
natural.
do this.
It looks so natural.
It's all
It's hard
natural.
to tell.
It
Right?
took 8
It
hours.
is.
We all know this was going to happen.
But something, it was interesting. For a long time, I think I was one of the few drag queens doing Tara on YouTube, and then I started to see other people starting to do it. And it's interesting. I wanted to talk a little bit about that today in regard to ethics, because what I'm seeing is I'm a tarot reader who also wears drag, but there's some people who are doing drag and they're not really doing tarot. And I'm like,
That diminishes the art form
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
of tarot.
I'm trying not to judge
And
because
your art.
everybody does their own. But yeah, it's like, one thing I have on my channel is, although I'm a drag queen and although I do camp, I am authentic and professional. Yeah, so I'm going to shut up and pass it on to Tom. Sorry.
Never shut up. We love you. Thank you so much, Miss Taro D. And then we have the lovely Tom.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us, Ange. This should be fun. It's already been a lot of fun. So I'm Tom. My channel's Early Ritual. It gets updated maybe every 3 months. I just spend most of my time on other people's lives. But, I have been somebody who's been doing tarot and other divination techniques in one way or another for the last 30 years or so, off and on. So, but I've only really seriously gotten back into tarot probably in the last 8 years now at this point, I guess 7 years, where I've really been really getting into it again. And I have started now just starting to open up and reading publicly, which I never really did. For me, it's always been a psychological tool that I've looked at for questioning my own and doing readings for myself. And I very rarely would read for other people. Years and years and years ago, more so, but not not really recently. And then the last couple of years, I've kind of basically because I've enjoyed so many of your channels that I've decided, I should try doing some per public consumption as well. So it's been fun. But yeah, so I have a little bit of a different take, I think, generally than most people on the tarot. So I'm curious to see where this conversation goes with ethics.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. And then we have Tarot Stash Gerald.
Hello, I'm Tarot Stash. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here, part of this panel. I've been reading tarot for 25 plus years, and I am a person who I do multi-layered readings. I pull in a lot of different resources, Akashic records, mediumship, tarot and oracle readings, mostly tarot. And I think it's really important that as a reader, I need to be authentically who I am. So who you see on screen is pretty much who you're going to get when you contact me for a private reading. I really like doing private readings. So, and what's interesting is I don't have an opportunity to do a lot of private readings. People aren't contacting me, but that's here and there. On my channel, Tarot Stash, we talk about tarot. We talk about, I have something called a laugh and learn, where we laugh whilst we're learning something new and we're exploring different topics. And so kindly put in a couple of links to Laugh and Learn about conversations about ethics. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always a good thing I'm always learning. I always want to continue to learn. So I'm just glad to be part of a community to where people are listening. And I like to figure out how we are similar, not how we are different. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And then we have Bobby.
Hey, boo.
Hey.
So I've been a tarot card reader off and on, mostly on for 40 years. I've worked professionally in places for about 30 years. When I was a hairstylist and a nail tech, I would read for my clients too. I am a witch. Not all tarot card readers do magic or are witches. I just happen to be one. The witchcraft came first, tarot came much later. I know a lot of Catholic readers, a lot of Christian readers. People have this view that tarot is tied into magic and witchcraft alone. It is not. And anybody who's looked through the deck and understands the symbols that are provided realizes this. I'm very protective of my clients. I'm very protective of my space, both at home, at work, and online. That is my sacred space. And if you enter it with intent to disrupt, I will bite back. I know a lot of readers are very gentle with, oh, just delete them. I'm like, no, let me have a word first and then you can delete them. If you come into my realm, you're subject to my rules. I'm sorry. That's just the way it works. I do readings with the intent of bringing unity and healing and clarity to a person. The goal is my client's healing. This is my goal. Okay. This is this. The idea is like the caduceus going up with Hermes. Okay. It's to build unity, bring people, their thoughts, their souls, their minds, their hearts, all into alignment. Okay. That's the goal. And if I can do my job right, I'm doing well. I don't take advantage of my clients. They come to me, like you said, some of them in the worst points of their life. And there have been many, many times over the years where I will do a reading and I'm not going to charge this person. This is necessary aid that I'm offering, battlefield first aid. I will help them get back on their feet and then make sure that they get the help they need, either from church, doctors, psychiatrists, whatever. That is what they need. I am not God. I am not here to provide that healing for them. I am a signpost. I'm a TV set. I show things. It's up to you to pick it up. All right. But I do provide, like a lot of us who do professional readings, we keep lists of, um, what do they call, Gerald? An emergency list for numbers.
Emergency contact list.
Yeah, that'll work.
I mean,
You're like,
duh.
Duh.
Are you
duh.
you know, professional
Yeah.
assistants? You
Yeah.
know, is that what you're referring to? I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, what, Bobby?
Well, the point is, I keep a sheet next to my workstation
That's a very nice
at the
thing to do.
office
Yes.
to make sure that I can refer them. A referral sheet. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
To refer them to what they need, because I am not a doctor. Gerald's fond of pointing this out. Everything. I'm not a doctor. I am not this. I am not that. What I am is a tarot card reader to show you what's in front of you. You need to take the next step. I do have an oath, which I'll share later on, that I have written for myself. I work primarily with Hermes and Hecate. I rely on Hermes and Hecate to show me what's hidden during reading and to help me relate that information to my client. Right? Sometimes other deities do make an appearance, but it's not always. You know, I can't reach out when I see people online, and every single time, I don't know. I'm trying to harsh my words back. I don't want to like come at people, but spirit, I get really upset when that word is thrown around blanket. Right? It's just a blanket shoot. Dig a little deeper. That's a personal thing. That's for me. That's how I see it. Personal. Everything again, everything we're saying up here is how we view it. So I guess that's it, other than I take being a reader very, very seriously. And I have to fight being a gatekeeper sometimes. That's one of my to get over things. And now I pass the stage to Ramon.
Ramon.
Yay.
All right.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Ramon and I have a channel called Moon Scarab. And on my channel, I explore tarot, divination, and other forms of connecting with the spiritual realm. So I practice, initially I created the channel sort of like to share different instructional videos on different aspects of tarot, upright and reverse definitions, numerology, etc. But then it expanded because I practice not only tarot, but I do Lenormand, oracle cards, La Vera Sibilla. I do Elder Futhark runes, Witch's rune, Om, domino divination, dice divination, charm casting, geomancy, numerology, bibliomancy, pendulum, etc. I love exploring divination, different forms
But
of
can you
divination.
whistle?
I can't. I'm not good at whistling. And on my channel, I share information on these different forms of divination that I practice. There's other ones that I do practice that I haven't shared in my channel yet, but to me, it's been an outlet to connect with this wonderful community, and I've learned so much in the process. I also share some of my artwork, poetry, and over the last few months, I've been branching out into doing lives with other people in the community, and it's strengthened my resolve and um, my experience that this is a tool. This is an experience that goes beyond like so many frontiers. I approach tarot both in the spiritual and psychological side, but it's just been wonderful, and I share a lot of other things in my channel, and one of them is that tarot came to me. It was a very interesting crazy way in which tarot came to my life, and it was like the answer that I was looking for to be able to fill a lot of spiritual gaps. And and from there I went into other forms of divination, and then from there to other types of channel. And it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm just looking forward to listening from tonight's panel, from people's point of view on the topic. And like all of us keep growing, because we are students in this process.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ramon.
Thank
And we
you.
have Jeff.
Hi, I am Jeff. I am Tarot Ass Backwards. I'm humbled to be on this panel tonight, simply because I have an interest in philosophy. I'm very inquisitive. If you've seen any of the shows that I've done about free will, or some of the things that inflect a lot of my readings on a daily basis, a lot of them do come down to kind of looking or exploring at what some of the notions are within the community, and not debunking them, but challenging them. I come from a background where I was an English major in college. I've been a writer for, I want to say a good writer, for 20 years. And I'm putting out a third book by the end of this year.
You are still a good writer, Jeff.
Right. Well, I believe I am.
You've always been. You've been polishing it.
Well,
Yes.
It's a subjective art, but let me stay on the train of thought. So that poetry inflects a lot of my readings. When I came to YouTube, it was all politics all the time for me, in terms of whom I discovered and what I grew into liking, and I still do. However, I find for me now, the more, or the resonance I have with energy readings, with people, with whether it's Lenormand, not in energy, but in fortune readings, or in tarot readings, is a lot more rewarding for me, because I have grown gifts to where I actually can channel in certain aspects. I can pick up things about people that I didn't believe I could. There's some mediumship involved, but mainly that mediumship captures, or is captured in a lot of ways, through a poetry prayer I like to do before I do give a reading. I do offer the private services as well, but my focus really is on the channel, because I believe that the energy we all share is overlapping, and I believe that there's our energy, and that's why within the live setting, I think I shine when you're in the live with me, because I'm picking up on your energy and you're giving back to me. You've made an investment of time, so I want to make that investment in you, because this can be a hard wall to work through, and a lot of people can say anything within these forums, and it can be hurtful, or it can be whatever. And I also want to say, this is something I also believe, in light of the fact that our energies overlap. Anytime someone asks a question, I know this is a big one we'll probably get into again, but the third party reading idea, I can't say that it's off the table with me, simply because when you're asking about yourself, in a lot of ways, someone else's energy is going to come through to me. So unbeknownst to you, you may be involved in a third party reading, whether you want it or not. Okay. So that's what I wanted to get out. The thrust of my shows mixes art. I try to be clever with the titles of my shows. And I'm just humbled by the talent that's around me. And I hope that I see more people, and I'm so grateful to the people in chat tonight that came, who were members of my channel. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate that. And we have Ryan.
Hey everybody, so I'm Brian. My channel is Blushing Nerd Tarot, and my channel's been kind of a mixed bag for the last few years. I've hopped on and off in terms of the frequency of my my content, but a couple things that others have said here really resonated with me too about just that sense of community and Jeff, like you mentioned, the energy in the lives. And I think we have a really special group in this, not only in the panel, in the other panel that did the daytime show, and all you folks in the chat. I'm watching Heather post all of our links, and nobody's asking for that sort of thing, and nobody, but that's what we do for each other. It's just that sense of community that's missing in so many places in life, and that's why I'm here. I mean, it's just amazing. So I really appreciate you inviting me in to this discussion. And I do have opinions or feelings on ethics and tarot, and but I think my approach to it has always been almost like a childlike awe for what I've seen it do, and also just the sense of joy I get from seeing connections that come through. And from the first time I picked up a deck, it actually brought me back to my childhood and kind of woke something up that had been asleep for a long time. So that's where I'm coming from, and I really appreciate everybody here and everybody in chat and for being a part of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian. And we have Jess. Hey, Jess.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
And you can see me?
Yes, we can see you.
You're all good.
Oh, I'm here though. I'm late, so Tom, you don't get this.
Okay, so yeah, we were just going around, Jess, and just introducing ourselves and our channels. So if you just wanted to let people know who you are and where they can find you.
Okay, well, I'm Jay. Some people know me as Jess. Either one is fine, but my channel is Majestic Oracle. Some people have gone to Majestic Tarot, and we're not the same. But yeah, I'm an intuitive healing arts practitioner, and I've been active in tarot for maybe about 10 years. And I use it as a tool to help guide people, and it helped me like psychologically assess things. And as far as my channel, I've got tons of different types of topics, and it's still kind of in its infancy, but I have been working with energy medicine for going on maybe 6-7 years. So yeah, I'm just kind of happy to be here and talk about the ethics, because I think it's important, and I finally get to see all your faces on the screen together. It's good seeing everybody. But yeah, so my channel just has various. There's a healing show called You Got This that I do with Dream Detective Kate, and then I have some other breakdowns of like smaller videos that I've done through lives, where you can find like orbs and EVPs and all kinds of paranormal stuff. So I think that's kind of about it, unless I maybe missed anything. I'm still kind of frazzled.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, definitely. With anything technological and when it's not working, it's so frustrating. So I'm so grateful that you are able to join us tonight, Jess. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. All right. So we are, and I just want to mention this live stream is being simulcasted to 5 channels, including this one, right? So there's 6 different channels that this is popping up on. So if you are typing in a chat, and just know that I can see all of the chat in StreamYard, but the chats and all the other channels can't see each other, which is kind of like a YouTube thing that I wish they would fix. And that would be really great if we could all see each other's chat. But I just wanted to say a huge hello to everybody joining in chat and all the different channels. And for anyone that doesn't already know who I am, my name is Ange, and my channel is Roots and Waves here on YouTube. I've been on YouTube since January 2021, I believe. And yeah, it's been a journey. I have done all different types of things, from deck flip throughs to interviews with deck creators to reading with my fellow colleagues here, and all kinds of fun stuff. So I just find that this is a great place to connect with like-minded people. And also, it is a place where I can share my gifts and my talents. I am a reader. I started off with Oracle back in early 2000s. And I started off with like Doreen Virtue and angel readings and stuff like that. And then as I grew, I dipped my toe into tarot and I never turned back. But I love reading with a mixture of tarot, oracle, and charms. So I consider myself a layered reading because I love the detail that that presents for the person asking the question. And yeah, I offer private readings. So how I offer them is people will contact me by email or WhatsApp. I have all of that information on my channel. And then I either do it live on WhatsApp or a pre-recorded, and I just send them the private link to a YouTube video. So if you are interested, all my information is located in my description, and I'll be happy to read for you. And maybe if I'm not the reader for you, one of these other beautiful people on panel, once you hear what their practices and their ethics are, maybe one of them will resonate. One of the main reasons we want to do this is so that people who are seeking out a reading maybe can understand what it is you should maybe be looking out for when you're seeking out a reader, right? Because there's more to it than just a pretty face or a nice pretty card that they're using. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And I also think it's important for fellow readers to have these conversations once in a while to sort of refresh our own ethics and where we're coming from on the topic, because sometimes you can get ideas about your own practices and your own beliefs. Because as we grow and evolve as people and as readers, I think it's really important that some of our ethics flow with that as well. So okay, so we're going to start off just by defining ethics, just for anyone that doesn't know what the word ethics means. So ethics is referring to moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Okay, and today we're focusing on the ethics of tarot or divination practices. Okay, and what that means. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go around, we're going to take turns, and we are going to dive into our own personal code of ethics. What does that mean for us in our reading practices? What is our reading styles? What type of readers are we? What are our values and our boundaries and things like that? And so once everyone has a turn to go around and share all of that, then we can open the floor to sort of, I call, branch off into the various subjects and topics around tarot ethics. So all right, I am just going to do this. And I'm just going to share just quickly for me in my personal take on this. And then we will go ahead and pass the mic to Elizabeth. So, all right. So, as I was saying in part one of this episode, it's establishing our boundaries and holding ourselves accountable is really important when it comes to our practices. Before we can consider ethics and boundaries, it's important that we know our core values and our intentions. So, checking our biases at the door and our opinions and our judgments, because if we don't, then that's going to cloud our ability to properly read for somebody, right?
Agreed.
And I believe that, that can be said for many different careers, not just this one, but we're specifically talking about divination practice. So, my core values, my specific ones, and my guiding principles that I stand by in my life are authenticity, respect, empathy, compassion, growth, patience, courage, and integrity. And so ethics for me are like clear boundaries, right? They keep me aligned with my values. These can and will change over time, like I said earlier, and they should as you evolve and you grow. So not only is it ethical to set clear boundaries, but it also ensures that I'm looking after my own well-being in doing so. My boundaries are put in place to protect myself and then the people I read for, and I have them in place in order to maintain my ethical and my energetic integrity. So psychic protection is really important to me. That's where I cleanse and I ground, right? So I have a singing bowl and I cleanse my energy with candles, and I have a very specific thing that I say before every live and after every live. So I open it and I close it. And if I notice that the energy of the live itself is getting a little funky, there's something I also say and do as well that's private to me that helps me sort of stay aligned and cleanse the energy of the space. So, like Bobby was saying earlier, I do take it seriously in terms of the energy of my space as well. I work really hard to do the things that I do on my channel and have the people on. And so I just want to make sure that it's a space that everybody feels welcome. All right. And then consent is huge for me as well. It ties into the third party readings. So I'm a reader that doesn't prefer to read third party. And a third party reading is just simply reading for a person who is not present during the reading. But as I have learned from the first panel, and I'm sure I'm going to learn more, there are layers to that, right? I don't think it's just like a black and white situation. And I'm learning that. And I'm really open to learning more. So, also, what's important to me is expectations. So, being very clear of time, cost, and specifications of what type of reading and service I am delivering and what that looks like to the client. And also limitations, knowing when to stop a reading if necessary, if I'm uncomfortable, if I see that the querent is uncomfortable, right? I just really want to create a space that's safe for everyone, myself included. And then, of course, there's privacy, confidentiality, and the remaining non-judgmental, because, oftentimes people are coming to us for a reading for some pretty vulnerable situations, right? So we just sort of have to hold space in that manner. Okay, here we are. All right, so thank you so much. So I am going to go ahead and pass it to Elizabeth so she can share about her personal ethics.
Thank you, Ange. So I think the biggest thing that I have come to learn over time is that these things change, which in another version of myself, I used to think, well, ethics and morals, I mean, based on right or wrong, it's a no-brainer, right? Either it's right or it's wrong. But over time, I myself have discovered that no, that's not true, and they do change. And I'll share just a quick story of how that was the case in my own life. The very first time I came in contact with a tarot deck, I was a teen. I had a boy over. I wasn't supposed to, but I had a boy over, and he brought a deck, and I lost my mind. What are you doing? Why would you do that? Why would you bring that here? And all I could think was like, oh my gosh, if my mom shows up right now, she's going to catch this guy here with these tarot cards, and that's going to be the end of it. And I quickly shooed him out of the house with his tarot deck and never thought about it again. Now I wish for the life of me I could remember what was the card that he drew in that moment, but I can't. But I do remember that it was the Salvador Dali deck, and it had very unique artwork. So that made an impression on me. Years later is when I finally came to the tarot. As a matter of fact, today is my anniversary. 12/11/2020, I finally, after putting the deck in and out of my cart hundreds of times on Amazon, I finally clicked buy on 12/11/2020. And I gifted it to myself for Christmas. And obviously my own thoughts about ethics and what's right and wrong, and should I be doing tarot, have changed over time. How I learned tarot, I bought the deck, I read the books, I found TarotTube, I started doing the videos. I think I was pretty much self-taught for the first couple of years, and it wasn't until then that I decided maybe I should do a course. Maybe I should find a way to ground all this information and make sure that I'm learning things the way that they're intended to be learned, and that I'm not, you know, picking up bad habits along the way. And so I did. I registered for a course. I took it. It was amazing. And during that course, there was a whole chapter related to tarot ethics. And that was really the first time I ever thought about it again. I had to deal with the situation of ethics very early in my journey, where I was still trying to figure out what I felt comfortable with and what I didn't want to do. In general, I usually don't share to very many people that I read the tarot, but I had a colleague and we were close, and I told her that I read, and she would always want me to read cards for her. But things became uncomfortable really, really quickly. It seemed like we were more interested in finding out about the lover than about the familial relationship at home. And now I was in a situation where I was having to read for her about that. It just felt like I was like, okay, I don't want to read on somebody else's energy. I just, in this situation, it just did not feel good. And so, long story short, this person eventually was promoted and became my boss. So, people, think about it. Think about it, because it can get very uncomfortable really, really quick. Yes, very, very quickly. Yeah, so it's a learning journey, and my own thoughts have shifted on the topic. I currently don't do third party, but I could see, based on what I heard from the first panel, and I'm excited to hear what's going on this panel. I could see why people do it, or why they feel it's okay. And I feel confident that the way that I feel about it in this moment will be different a year from now, 3 years from now, 5. So that's the best part of being in this journey, is watching the evolution. So I will stop there and pass it over to Miss Tarot D.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And that's so important, right? To point out how, in that specific situation, it made you uncomfortable. So saying overall, for example, like, oh, like I don't read third parties, right? Or even if I did, and then there's a situation I got myself into where I don't feel comfortable, how do you get yourself out of that, right? So it's really hard to, to navigate that sometimes, because you don't know the specifics and the context of a situation until you're presented with it, especially in a live setting, so you're like, you don't have time to mull it over. If somebody emails you a question, you at least have time to think it over, right? So thank you for sharing. And then we have beautiful Miss Tarot D.
What a heavy topic so far. Beautiful topic, beautiful but heavy. I think I'm going to go right back 360 to what Gerald started when he said, who you see on here is who I am. And I think that has to be the core essence of our ethics, and people who know me outside of drag, and know me in my other real world, I think they can vouch to say that at the core of it, I'm the same person. I try to be the same person. Take away the glitz and the glamour, the joking, the sassiness. At the end of the day, it's about do no harm and love. Really, really love. And I think as long as you stay focused on loving and caring, that's the root of your ethics. It's like all the doctors and mental health professionals, they take the oath, first do no harm. And I think as spiritual workers, we have to enter this with first do no harm. And I always tell people when I read for them, I will tell you what the cards say for the good or the bad, right? But how do I deliver the message? That's a very different story. The tower is the tower. But now, what can I help you understand about the tower and tower card, and how can I support you through that phase in your life during the tower card. I mean, that's different, you know. An unethical person, excuse me, would use that as a way of extorting someone or hurting someone. Like Bobby said, they would use that to say, well, now you need to buy $75 crystal to, take this demon off of you or whatever, right? And charge you separately for a 4-minute reading. Um, that's not ethical, in my personal view. My view is you tell a person what you see and what spirit is telling you in the message to give them, but then how do you support them through that as well? People are hurt enough in society; they should not be hurt by coming to us. You know, um, and I'll share something personal. I run a pretty big program, and I tell my staff, um, the one thing that I will never ever abide by, and I will lose my temper about, is that the families that come to my program have been hurt enough. They should not be hurt by a system. You know, they should not be hurt by a system. And I lose my wit when I see that. So I take that same core energy, ethics, whatever you want to call it, into my readings, into my spirituality, into my connection with people. Even if I have to deliver a negative message, how do I do it where I'm not adding additional harm to you,
Mm.
but can support you through it? You know, I think there's someone on the panel who may be in the medical field, whatever, or might have had to deliver some bad medical information to someone. How do you do that? How do you do that and sustain them and support them? You know, how
Mhm.
so I think for myself, that's what I try to do. That's my ethical core value. Um, bring it always with the sense of love and peace and support. And sometimes we also have to understand ethically, uh, we should not be holding back information. If spirit is giving you a message, you might not understand it and it might sound horrible, but you cannot deny that message from being told. You might have to tell the individual, say, hey, you know what? Spirit is whispering this thing in my ear. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, but I have to share it, you know? And then share that message. And it might be uncomfortable for them too, and then you could process it out. But I think withholding information is harmful in and of itself. And I think that's also unethical, you know? Because then you're not being honest with the person if you're withholding a message or information. You're
Mhm.
not being honest. And once you stop being honest, you're losing credibility from others and yourself, you know? And at the end of the night, when I take off my hat and my wig and I put my head on my pillow, you know, I'm only accountable to myself and my
Right.
higher power, you know. It's that's who's going to be my judgment card at the end of the day, you know. And when I get up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror again? Probably not until I put on some makeup and everything because I'm kind of ugly underneath all this. But still, I
No,
always
you're
need
not.
to be able to look at myself in the mirror and feel okay with it and say, you
Mhm.
know what, I'm doing my best. Can never be perfect, but I'm doing my best. I'm trying not to harm. And when I do harm, I need to be accountable, hold myself accountable, and make amends. Make amends. Okay? You might not always be able to fix it, but at least you could make amends. And sometimes people appreciate it when you've harmed them, even though you can't fix it. And apologies don't always help. But for them to know that at least you're holding yourself accountable for causing that harm, it means something to them.
Mhm.
It generally means something. So I don't know if I answered your question. I just babbled on, but that's my
You've been
ethics.
fantastic.
Answered the question. I think we could just end right there. And
Yeah, that's it. Okay, thanks for
Wow.
Sorry. And I don't know if Gerald warned you, and Gerald usually warns all the other people when they host me that you got to pull the reins because I can talk too much.
Oh no,
He
you're
tells me
fine.
you're gonna have to pull her in. She can chat away. I love Gerald because he knows me. He understands me. He gets me.
Aw. Thank you so much, Miss Charity. You are, you have a very special way of connecting with people. I mean, I think that this work in general, what we do, we all have a special way of connecting with people. And Miss Charity, you have like a very unique special like compassionate way of doing so. You have a way of like mixing, you can take a serious topic and still have some humor mixed in, and so I just really appreciate your style and what you bring to this community, and I'm very, very grateful, that you are doing such important work out in the world as well to help people who are, like you said, already hurting in this world. So you shared beautifully and thank you so much. All right. And we have Bobby.
That's me. That's me. Um,
Ooh.
so I want to address something first, Miss Taro D. Yeah, when she was on my channel, I had to call Ramon in to help wrangle her. So yes, that's serious. Uh, so here's what I got. I'm going to start off by sharing my oath to you guys. It's not that long, I promise. Um, and I read this every morning. I, a seeker and servant of divine mysteries, stand before Hermes, bearer of Caduceus, and the winged guide of the realms. I pledge my heart and spirit in service to the God of messages, whose words traverse both shadow depth and celestial heights. As messenger, this is the important part, may I receive and deliver his divine truths with clarity and integrity, carrying forth his wisdom like the sacred winds. Basically, keep me in line. Okay, I understand this is a huge responsibility. This is not a game. Okay, I know a lot of tarot readers jump into this and say, "Oh, I'm going to pull cards online," and they have no clue what they're doing. They can cause harm because some of these people think you're seriously connected in a way that you're not. So basically, I hate to say it like this, but some people are just passing on bullshit. I try not to be judgmental because maybe that person needed to hear that bullshit. That's not for me to decide. All right. It says, "May as liaison, may I bridge the worlds of mortal and divine, ensuring the voice of the unseen is heard and respected with reverence for its origin and purpose." Okay, that's a given. It just goes on and on, basically saying I'm going to not cause harm to my clients. I'm going to do whatever I can to protect them. I'm going to bring them healing clarity if at all possible. I'm a Heyoka empath, not just an empath. What that means is I don't just feel the pain. You know when somebody goes dun da da dun dun and stops? Okay. How that drives you nug and fuss? When I see pain, I can't pass it by. I got to stick my big oversized nose into it and try to heal the situation and problem. And that's hard because there's boundaries. I can't just jump in to somebody's life and try to fix it for them. I have to wait to be addressed. And that's what a lot of readers don't do. How many of us have gotten messages which I crack up at that they're sending to us? Um, I have a message for you, my beloved soul. Contact me right away for your reading. All right. That irritates me to no end. First of all, I'm not your beloved. Second of all, you're a thirsty little fool. All right, so you need to back up. I do work for the Divine Messenger Service. And after I pass, I will work for the Divine Messenger Service on the other side. I'll get the back office job. Right? I truly believe that in my heart. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've had my share of mess ups. When I was in my early 20s, one of my first jobs as a reader, somebody came to me about her missing husband. And rather than say, I'm not sure I should be doing this, I did the reading. And I told her, look, honestly, this is what I see. And I told her what I saw, that her husband was laying by a body of water. And I showed her the Ten of Swords. I said, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. And she left. She said, thank you. And I felt awful. I was like, I shouldn't have done that. What the hell? Um, well, she came back a few days later, a couple days later, and said, we found my husband. He was laying dead in the canal. He had been stabbed to death. And I said, thank you very much for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. She walked out. I grabbed my cards, looked at the owner and said, bye. And I walked out the front door because I realized I did not have the maturity. I may have had the gifts, but I had no clue on how to use them properly. I had to go down the fool's journey and grow up and be an adult before I even considered going back to reading professionally. I won't read for family. That's a given. I will not read for my family. Why? Because I'm too wrapped up in it. And I will change the narrative unintentionally. Third party readings, it's been brought up. Tom said it. You can't do a reading without having other people enter into it in one way or another. So here's where I stand on that. There's a difference between going to the beach and going in the water. Okay. When I do a reading, I'm taking these people to the beach. I'm showing them the water, but I'm not delving into it and digging into that other person's life. Okay. I am saying there is water in front of you. This is here. It's raging water. It's calm water. But that's all I can really tell you right now. And I will tell a person, honestly, I don't feel comfortable reading for that question because that's a privacy issue for that person. They may not want certain things known. If I see somebody has a child who's about to come out of the closet and it's going to mess their family life up because they're not willing to accept it, I'm not going to tell them that. What I am going to tell them is, as a parent, make sure you support your children whatever they do. All right, I'm saying that there may be some issues coming up for you, but I'm not going to tell them any more than that. That's a privacy issue for the child. I'm not going to out them to their parents, even when I'm pretty sure of it. It's the best I can do. All right, pretty sure. All right, I can't say definite to anybody. I won't say definite to anybody. What I say is, unless things change, this is the probable outcome of this situation. Okay, just like in A Christmas Carol, if these shadows remain unchanged, that's where I picked that up from. Was that frickin' movie? I love it. I go into a reading with a couple words: perception, privacy. Those are words that are very important. How your client is receiving the information is incredibly important. How are you being received? It's not just you throwing words out at them. They have to understand what you're saying, okay, so they don't take it in the wrong way. Privacy, again, I will not tell anybody what my client said, but I do tell my client I am not bound by confidentiality laws. I can be subpoenaed, so don't tell me anything illegal. All right, don't do it. Just keep it simple for both of us. As far as readings go, seeing difficult situations, if you see it, say it. That doesn't mean you have to be brutal with it. You don't have to beat the client over the head with the truth. Okay? You can soften the blow. Okay? Like if you know they're going to hit some serious financial problems, I would suggest they start holding on to their finances and watching things a little closer. Okay. I'm not going to tell them, oh my God, I see you homeless, but I will go down that road with them, making sure they're prepared to pay attention to their finances closer. And different people going to different channels on the same night and getting different readings on the same question. We've all seen it. We've all seen people go from channel to channel asking the exact same question, whether they're trying to get the answer they want or whether they're going for confirmation, doesn't matter. I have no problem with them doing it. I know some people do have a problem with it. I don't. I don't at all. The reason being is, picture a city with 100 buildings, but each one of those buildings has a different view of the situation. When you go to different readers, they're getting a different view on that question. And it's up to them, it's up to the querents to take that information and put it all together. Okay. My view on a situation won't be the same as Gerald's. It won't be the same as Tom's. It won't be the same as Brian's. It's going to be different because I'm different. I have different life experiences. I have different this. I have different that. All right. So no, I don't have a problem with people who jump channel to channel. If I can help them anyway, hey, I'm here for it. And I think that ends my rant for tonight. Thank you.
So it's
So
interesting
annoying.
because as we're going around, I was taking notes, not on what other people were saying, unless like something jibed my mind or jogged my memory of how I do things. And the most important aspects to me when I'm reading is that, and this is going to sound strange at first, but that if I'm going to sit in the energy of someone else with them, that I'm detached and that I'm not biased and I'm not, that I'm calm, right? Because if I'm not, or I'm, apprehensive, that will of course rub off on the other person. If you're getting a vibe about something, what you need to do is let the stream of consciousness take over. That's why the power of prayer and the poetry prayer is so important to me, because that is my way of, it's almost like a third eye component to me, where I'm getting something off the energy, but it's an icebreaker. I also feel this is, and this is, almost like a step-by-step of what I'm doing, as opposed to what is ethical and what isn't ethical. But through this, you'll see an interweaving, I think, of what, or a weaving of what is. I do believe it needs to be free-flowing. I do believe I have an issue with follow-up questions if I'm picking up something, not necessarily about a third person or another person in this person's life, or I will ask the querent if I may ask a question delicately about something, and they have to be the ones to tell me whether or not they want me to, and I can explain why if they want. The other thing I get a lot of the time, I hit walls. It just goes black in my mind. Then I know I'm not supposed to go into it. The other thing that hasn't been mentioned yet that really comes to my mind, and I had an issue with this last week. If some people saw it, I don't know. Things that might be a question that might be controversial or somewhat absurd to some people, or potentially alienating people in the chat, because the question might be alluding to something that might connote violence. I have to make sure that I am protecting the person asking the question as well as the people who are in the chat who disagree. That's a very hard thing to do. That's why you have to mind the chat and make sure it's no judgment zone. We all come from different backgrounds. We don't know why people are asking the questions. We don't know what the psychological mindset of the person is. We don't know, and that's a delicate line. So when readings come up a certain way, regardless of the answer, we need to be mindful of all the people together, because our energy overlapping, when that energy starts to go down, the whole room will go down and the whole energy will go down. The other thing that I'm concerned about is the term for entertainment purposes only. That's a double-edged sword, because it's almost minimizing what you're saying and the value of what you're doing to try to bring to the table. But yet we're not doctors, we're not lawyers, we're not, any of these people, but where do we draw the line between what we're feeling and what we're seeing, and where that ethical line needs to be drawn? Well, for me personally, I mean, if it's stream of consciousness and it's free flowing, it's like you're a storyteller. It's a parable. If you say for entertainment purposes only, I would, definitely say also, if this is coming from a place where, if you're getting the feeling as a reader that this could be coming from a place of desperation, you might want to just be, this is no substitute for blah, 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 blah. I also, and these notes are not in order. The other thing that I feel that's important with this is that there was one other thing. Oh yeah, I won't read for myself, only because I do not think I can read on my own energy and be objective about the cards, or I might be more subject to confirmation bias by looking at them. So I don't, in principle, I will not read for myself. I don't know where other people stand on that, but I won't do it. I'd go to someone else first to tell me the unvarnished truth, rather than something I might bring to my, mind that might be biased. It might be wrong. So that's my perspective on it. Tom?
I do that too, Tom.
Yeah.
I won't read for myself either.
Oh, really? Yeah, there
That's
are definitely
interesting.
readers who won't read for themselves. Yeah, and I understand that. Like you said, you can get in your own way. Absolutely. For me, I started off with using the cards for myself. And for me personally, it's a very important tool that I use for my mental health, for my spiritual growth. So I do read for myself. But you make a very good point, because there's certain situations where I absolutely will reach out and pay for a reading when need be. Yes, because I would definitely be in my own way. But just for like everyday pulls and different journaling things, like I use the cards for. But when it comes to an important reading, I'll absolutely reach out to another reader. So some very, very awesome points that you've made there as well, Jeff. Thank you so much. All right, and we have Tom. Hey.
I mean, I'll start off by saying I primarily read for myself. So exact opposite, Jeff, for you. But it's taken time. I mean, it's a long process to get to the point where I feel confident that I'm not lying to myself about certain things, or if I am, I'll know. I will usually think about it and realize that I may be having some bias on that. So I do, that is when I will sometimes reach out to other people and get a reading. But for me, it is primarily a psychological tool. I don't necessarily look at all of this as a spiritual practice. I am, I consider myself first and foremost an occultist, but I don't look at it as tapping into spirit or anything like that. To me, this is a psychological tool. There might be some psychic elements to it, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really do too much in my mind. Some things that I do read, I may do something in a predictive way, or divinatory way. I'll use the word divination, but I don't necessarily mean the same thing that I think some other people may mean with it. For me, it's like I said, it's first and foremost kind of a psychological tool. For me, it was something that I used to really talk with myself, talk with my subconscious, to kind of see things from a different perspective. I think cards force you to see you making connections that aren't yet you normally wouldn't have made, I think, by looking at the cards. And that's what I really like. So I really like the play between the cards. I also was very much into like bibliomancy and stuff like that for a long time, for the same reasons. I will say one thing with what Jeff brought up about the for entertainment purposes only. I mean, I think I get what he's saying about how it does feel like it cheapens things, but for some people it is a legal option. I don't think it's a legal thing too, because there are still states that do have fortune telling laws. So, like I think Pennsylvania is one of them. So, realistically, you're not supposed to take money for fortune telling. It's supposed to be for entertainment only and things like that. And I know there's a couple of states that still have laws like that, and I think they're actually somewhat, hot take. I do think some of those are in place for good reasons, because there's a lot of grift.
To add to that, if I don't remember to say it, in Project 2020 with Trump, there is something about that, about readers and about there is. So just be mindful. We got to be mindful. He's right. The point is, Tom is right. We need to be mindful of it. And I always try to remember to put that in there and always say it. But I do believe it can be a double-edged sword.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely. I think, I think it's the secret that everybody knows. Everybody thinks. I think everybody knows what you mean when you're saying it. But also at the same time, yeah. I mean, I have some hard rules in the sense that I will not read like medical stuff for people. Mm-hmm. I will not. I try not to do political readings. That I think I will be way too biased. It's like, when I've tried sport betting for a while, ruins the game. So can't do it. Same for politics. I really don't want to. I don't want to think about that. It'll just ruin readings for me. But I'm a lot more gray in some of the other things, like third party things like that. I think there's a difference between what I will do on a live and what I would do like on a one-on-one with somebody or on my own. I've done financial readings for people that I would not do on a live. I also do, to Miss Tarot D's point earlier, I try not to hide information from people, but I will be very conscious of how I'm sharing it, depending on who it is. I've done some readings where I've given information that, like, to somebody who, like, I know can take it, but where if it was somebody else, I would have said probably very differently. But I'll be far more blunter with somebody that I know can take it for what it is and understand where I'm coming from with the information. But third party, I mean, as it's been said a couple times, I mean, it's going to come up. It's going to be. We all kind of lie to ourselves, I think, a little bit when you're talking about, we'll ask the question differently. I mean, it's still the same question, really. It's just the phrasing doesn't really change what you're doing. But I do feel that there is, I think people should respect other people's, and I try not to do readings on people that aren't asking for it. But depending on the situation, I'm not 100% against it. So I mean, I don't know. Ethics is weird because I think some people bring ethics from it depends on how you're getting your morals. Some people build their morals from spiritual practice. Some people build their morals from a humanist, approach, or, just a philosophical approach to life. And, for me, it's really, I try not to do something to other people that I wouldn't want them to do to me, really, ultimately. And that's really what it comes down to, I don't know if anybody's really tapping into this unknown. I don't know. I mean, anybody who's saying that they know exactly what's going on doesn't know what's going on either. So, but it's very interesting because I like when we do like group readings and stuff online on readings on lives, because I feel like it's really interesting to see the connecting tissues that come across all these, from different readers. Like there's 10 of us on here that are all very different readers, and we're all coming at it from a very different way, very different spiritual paths, very different practices. And yet we're all like, there's these times when things just come together so perfectly in a reading, in a group setting, and it's so amazing to me. And it's so chilling when that happens. But what is it? I don't know. But that's a whole other conversation. I'm going all a little bit off script here, but yeah, I don't know. Ethics are interesting because I feel like there's ethics that people are saying that they won't do, but I know for a fact that other people will do some things that in their private life that they're not doing, like potentially on stream. And I get that there's a public persona to some extent. I mean, we've talked about authenticity. I mean, I'm pretty much as authentic as I'm me. I mean, you know me in real life. This is me. But what's interesting is I don't share generally with people in my real life about my tarot reading. People know that I'm into the occult. People know that I don't hide anything, but I don't talk about my tarot reading to people, mainly because I don't want to have to read for people. That's what it comes down to. I really don't want to read for people if I don't have to, and I'll feel obligated. That's about it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
That's awesome.
And
Can I throw something in real quick, Ange?
of course, yeah.
This has been a problem that I've been dealing with lately. Is because I do a 420 tarot episode, I get emails of loving people in our community wanting to help me get off of drugs. Okay.
Wow.
Really?
Yes, it's happened
my
twice.
God.
I am a cannabis user. I use cannabis for health reasons. When I started using cannabis, I was able to put on a lot of weight. I get really sick. I have severe health issues. When I use cannabis on readings, it's within my sacred space, which is blessed. I know what I'm doing. I've done this for a very long time. I use cannabis in my religious work to put me in a liminal mind space. But because of that, I get other readers coming down on me. And I should have said other readers. Yes, some of the mails I have gotten to were from readers, but I understand the message behind what they were saying. They don't believe in this usage and they want to help me get off of it. Well, what you don't understand is A, I didn't ask, and B, I use this for a purpose. So I guess my point was people see us and they think something one way, and it's all fuckered up basically. I don't know how that tied in with what you were saying, but it did. Trust me, it did.
Oh,
I mean,
This is what happens. This is what happens when I'm sober. Damn it.
People, I one of the things that I love about this community is that there's so many different people, but I also, one of the things that I dislike about this community is how everybody thinks that their way is the right way. A lot of people tend to have that look at that take sometimes, and it's frustrating, I think, for when you are somebody who doesn't necessarily believe in the same thing. It's very funny to me that people who are very anti other things are very much the same way that the things that they complain about. I will say that as nicely as I can, but yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, it's both queerants and readers in this space come in for a variety of different reasons, and I think there's a lot of people that come in not necessarily for the wrong reasons, but because they're looking for something and they're searching for something. And sometimes we can help with that, sometimes we can't. And I think that's, that sometimes spills out a little bit across things. And I think that speaks to a little bit of what you were saying, Bobby.
It does.
sure. Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that, Bobby. It's a um there's many different perspectives and layers
No, I'm
to
not.
all of this.
It,
And I think it's important to point out and to kind of go back to what we were saying, that as long as you are out here and you're not harming anyone in your practice, you do you. You know what I mean? Like, um, you've been very open about your use of cannabis for medicinal purposes on your lives. I personally don't think that you need to explain yourself to anybody.
oh,
But
I
you
don't even
did,
reply.
right? But I mean, I'm just saying, like, you put yourself out there in a way, just say, okay, just so I'm using this for medicinal purposes. But you know what? It's okay. You're not going to resonate with anybody, everybody out here. I
Yeah.
said that in the first part of
Yeah.
this tarot ethics, and I'll say it again. And it's just that unsolicited advice, though, can be harmful, whether it's coming, like you said, from a fellow community member, or um,
I
vice versa.
understand that I put myself out there in a variety of ways, both as the professional reader and then the 420 reader in the liminal space. So I do open myself up to it. I can't really complain when it comes back at me now, can I?
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
You can complain.
you have a valid point, and I appreciate you sharing, right? Like, it's important that we share these things. So thank you very much. All right. And now we have Gerald.
Can everybody take a joke?
Yes.
No. Okay.
Another one.
Tom, look away. Jeff, look away. This is for entertainment purposes only. Do not make decisions based upon what I say. Seek professional assistance. Really.
Really?
We need that head
Really?
tilt. We need the head tilt and everything, Gerald. We need the head tilt and the look over the glasses.
Really.
And the flap. We got a flap.
There we go.
There you go. So I will condense my page of notes because there's been really amazing points that everybody has made. And one of the things that is really important, you have to be you. You have to be authentically who you are when you are using your skills in this platform, and when you are reading privately. I think that's really very important. So one of the first things on my list is this idea is you have to take time to understand your values and how those values show in your actions, because you want to make sure that everything is lined up. Understand honestly why you want to read cards or tarot, because if you're not honest with yourself, it's going to be challenging for others to find you and to connect with you. I said to some people, I said, if you want to make money at this, be honest with yourself that this is what you want to do, because it changes the approach. If you want to help people, great. If you want to collect, if you want to do a whole lot of videos and all of that stuff about having a curated collection, great. I think for me, ethics are about, they're my guide rails or the guardrails that are along the road just to keep me from falling off. And I encourage everybody who's watching this and watching the playback to periodically examine your ethics. And you said this before, you grow and evolve. And that's a good thing. As long as you periodically look at that. Does this still work for me? Do I need to do anything differently? It's like, the other thing that is really important is you demonstrate your ethics by your action. There is no need to belittle people who don't share your values. Everyone has a different opinion, and it's okay. Do you engage it publicly? I don't know. Do you? That is something that would be considered for your ethics. Is that something that you want to do? I'll be honest with you. I know I am not the reader for everyone. People who watch me, I have shtick. Duh. I can't help it. That's who I am. However, there's a lot of authenticity to it. And what you see online is different than what you experience on a one-on-one reading. Because, there's the idea of third party, medical, legal, medicinal, all financial, all of that stuff. Online, I have some of my own guidelines based upon what I know from the service that we're on and the community that I live in. I'm not going to do that often, or I'm just going to do a little bit of it. However, in a private reading, that's a different conversation because it's not for public consumption. I think that's something really important to understand. And somebody had mentioned earlier, I think it was Ms. Tarot D, who's like going, it's the responsibility to deliver the information that you hear. I agree with that. And it may not be the easiest information to convey. And so I think honesty without support is brutality. And so I learned that in my postgraduate work in psychology is you can be honest with someone, but if you do not support them enough so that they can hear what you're saying, I see it in part of my ethics is I think people who are coming for a consultation are already in stress. There's something going on that has brought them to us. And so for me, it's I want to deliver that message in a way that the querent can hear it and understand it. So that's why I really like the private readings, because then we can have a conversation and energetically I can get a feeling on whether or not this is resonating with someone or if it's opening something else for them that may be challenging them for them to hear. And it gives me the opportunity to demonstrate one of my values is I want respect. I expect me to respect you and meet you where you are. I want the same in return. It's also very important for me to hold space for whatever it is that you're learning and what you're going through. I want you to be able to hold space so that you can look at that and you can understand it and explore it in a way that is helpful for you so that you leave from the time that when we're finished, that you leave feeling like you have gained something that will support you and to help you where you are. So yeah, I do, before I start every private reading and every time I go live, I have a ritual. I have incense. I have jewelry that I wear. These are all things that each of us do in different ways. And for me, Bobby's not the only witch here. I'm a witch as well. So for me, that ritual builds that energy and creates that sacred space. And that's really very important. So I encourage everybody, if you're shuffling cards and you're going to do a reading, have that be part of the ritual. So
I just wanted to dovetail off of something you said, Gerald, about if they're coming in and they're coming from a place where they really need help. I think the best way to gauge that is to read the energy of how the question is asked. You know what I mean? As opposed to reading the person first, because sometimes the question can be a dead giveaway about how it's asked.
Oh, of course.
But, yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
I not only hold space, but sometimes we have to create that space because it might be the only time the person may be able to share. Very well said, Sarah D.
Yes, thank you.
Confidentiality is really very important for me. If I do oftentimes I won't remember the reading that I've done for someone. And that's one of my ways of knowing that
you're doing it right.
Yeah, I'm doing it right. I've cleared myself, and I'm the oracle delivering the information. And so, but I'm not going to talk about somebody else's reading. I'm also I'm also a person who, when I'm sharing space with like these amazing people, I'm not going to be talking badly about other readers. All of you have different reading styles, and they're equally as valid as mine. I mean, and I love the idea of find the reader that is right for you. Because, like I said, I'm not for everybody. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Also, as a reader, it's very important when I'm finished to cleanse the space and finish up, tidy up, to make sure that everything feels safe and secure, and everything in its place, a place for everything and everything in its place. I have learned in my years of study and my classes that I've taken is I have to be out of the way of delivering a clear message. So I have to understand what's mine. And if something that is coming up in a reading is giving me a reaction, I have to go, okay, this is me. I have to put that aside so that I can deliver that information for the querent. And sometimes I've actually said to people, okay, this is just Gerald talking. This is not the cards. So I know that about me enough to go, okay, this is Gerald. This is not the cards. So I think I have said most of what I needed to say. I hope that makes some sense. And again, I think it's so very important that we understand who we are as individuals and our strengths, because my strengths are not runes. I've studied them. I'm not going to pick up a rune because I'm not going to be very good at it. Because, maybe it's because I'm an overachiever. There, I said it. I need to be very comfortable and confident with the tool. And so it's like, some of you have been on my channel for deck casuals, where we talk about a tarot deck. And it's one of those things that I have a whole list of things that I go, and it takes me 2 weeks. That's the preparation that Gerald needs. You may not need that. So
yes, thank you so much. Gosh, you touched on so many very important things that you all have. And one thing that you pointed out is that, in terms of delivering the message, however hard that can be sometimes, you're right, not following up with the conversation or with that support can be more damaging than when the person originally came to us. And it really sparked something in my mind. So in the medical field, often, as you can imagine, there's tough news and things that we have to deliver. And one of the things that we're taught in nursing school is reading the energy of the room and meeting a person where they're at.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you don't want to talk above them. And what that means is, get a feel for how the person speaks. You don't want to start talking to a person at a level that they can't understand. So, for example, it's very easy to do when you're in the medical field and you start talking medical jargon. But, to someone who doesn't understand that, that's going to really like freak them out even more. And so I've taken a lot of that experience from that line of work into the line of work of reading cards to really understand what that means to meet somebody where they're at and to read the energy of the situation and the person. So very, very important. So thank you very much for mentioning that.
I want to mention something Integrative Healing with Sadhana said, and said, while my readings online may be a bit more guarded, they are certainly not less authentic. Absolutely. So I hope it didn't come across that I was saying that those readings aren't authentic. But boy, there are a lot of good readers that do stuff online. And when you get a private reading, a whole world opens up. It's like, oh my gosh. So
Yes, and that ties nicely back into what I think many people said tonight already, is that it's not inauthentic to not deliver the news and all of the information in a reading live on a place like this on the World Wide Web. I think actually it is ethical to withhold information during a live stream that could potentially put that person in an awkward position out here. We never know who's watching these live streams. So let's say, they're asking about a vulnerable situation and that person they're asking about, maybe, what I'm trying to say is like watching, you just never know. And so, like I've said in part one of this tarot ethics, I have gotten some information through the cards for people and I've reached out to them behind the scenes asking them if it's okay if I share what I got, So it's not that I'm withholding information, it's just that I try to protect people as much as I can in terms of exposing things that potentially they may not want the World Wide Web to know. So that's a great point.
Yeah,
You can go
I've
back
done
and
that.
watch some of my videos. It you see me say I'm not going to put you on blast like that right here. So I refuse. I didn't mean to cut you off, Tom. Please.
Oh no,
that's fine. Yeah, no, all I was gonna say is like, yeah, I've done not so much on YouTube, but when I've done some readings on Discord for people, like if I'm in a public thread and like sometimes we'll do readings for people when I'm just feeling like practicing or whatever. And there's definitely been some times where I've like pulled it into a DM because like
Yeah,
you get some stuff that you're like, you know what, this isn't what they're really asking about necessarily, or they were asking about, but it's gone in a way that they may not want everybody that's reading it to know. So it's definitely, yeah. I mean, I think that's an important thing, and I feel like it hasn't come up on a live for me really generally, but like I feel like, yeah, I definitely would reach out in a different way to somebody if there's messages that you're getting, or you get feelings.
For sure. Yeah. And like Gerald was saying, not for public consumption. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's not, there's certain things, and it doesn't happen to me very often, but I'm just saying it has happened. So I kind of like, I try to tread lightly when that does come up.
I mean, one thing that I didn't bring up that I really meant to bring up, that's somewhat related to that topic, is one of the things that I don't like to read at all from an ethical standpoint is like true crime stuff. I feel like you get into very accusatory realms with that at times, and I don't like that. I know there's people that just don't like the energy of that, but I don't like the accusations that could come out of something like that, and I think that is somewhat related. I don't mind maybe on my own doing that, like that's again one of these gray things, but I think it's something that's not for public consumption, as people are saying, necessarily at times, because I do think it gets a little dicey.
I think you bring up something really interesting, Tom, and then I'll stop talking. I'll actually mute myself. Good luck. No, but I think there's so many shows that are available to watch and so many readers and so many channels. If you don't like something, go somewhere else. You don't need to, change the channel.
Simple.
You don't, and for me, it's, I'm not a person who's going to be leaving a nasty comment that, oh, I don't like the show or I don't like you. I'm just going to go, I'm going to remove my energy, take it back to me, and I'm going to do something else with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my biggest friends on here do true crime readings. I'll watch the shows, I'll participate in reading, but I won't read on them.
Yeah, and it's not, it goes back to what Ange had talked about is you got to know your reading styles and your preferences, and yes, you can stretch and you can try things out. I'm really good with private readings about spiritual growth and some talking to dead people, Akashic record stuff. I like that. That's where I
Mhm.
get a lot of my energy. Other people don't. Great. Okay, now I'm on mute.
Yep. No, I'm glad that this is a conversation. This is great. And we're definitely going to get to Ramon next. But I also just wanted to point out on the first part of this tarot ethics, we had Kim from Abundant Life Tarot, and she not only reads on the hotlines, but she reads for the true crime. And she also mentioned in the comment section underneath the video afterwards to say, we forgot to mention reading on celebrity readings. And is that ethical, and is that tapping into energy we shouldn't be? And so these are just things to think about, and again, it what sits right for you may not sit right for me, and it's not to say that it's wrong. It's just that again, we have to default back, and this is why we're having this conversation. What are your core values? What is it that your absolute boundaries of, like, nope, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to read on that. Like, another one for me is I will not read for anyone under the age of 18, um professionally, in terms of being paid for it. You know what I'm trying to say? Because I have that boundary. But like, if my kids ask me to read for them, that's different, right? But so yeah, we do have these, like, hard no's, like, I'm not going to do this. And that's very important to know, what you will do and what you won't do. But and Tom just explained that we can still support people who do the things that we won't read on. It's just that it's not for us. So I'm not going to use my energy to tap into it, but I'm going to support you in your endeavors, because that's where you shine. And I think that's a really beautiful thing when we can actually support one another and agree to disagree in certain things, in certain situations. So thank you very much. Okay, Ramon, hey, what you got to share with
Hello.
us?
Yes. So when I started in tarot, I used to believe that every question deserves a card and an answer. And over time, you get to learn that there are certain situations in which you feel comfortable with, providing a reading, and others that you don't. And that's how you uh, establish your self identity as a reader, right? In my case, my approach to tarot is grounded on three key principal things, and that's respect, clarity, and boundaries. In terms of respect, I honor the querent's journey, their questions, and their boundaries. My readings are more focused in trying to provide insight without having judgment, right? In terms of clarity, I don't call myself a psychic because that's a word that doesn't resonate with me because of different connotations, like overpowering abilities or predicting the future. I personally identify myself as an energy interpreter, and it's a title that reflects my role in a reading and translating the spiritual initiative and these energies into the present situation. My work, I try to focus into providing guidance, clarity, and empowerment. Something that's very important to me also are boundaries. I avoid invasive questions or situations that cross ethical lines. And my readings, I try to always frame it in a way that serves the querent's growth and in healing. In terms of preparing for a reading, my practice, beside having a psychological side, it's also deeply spiritual. I connect with Santa Muerte, which is my spiritual guide. For me, she is a being of light, of clarity, of cutting away all those things that don't serve us. And I connect with her for grounding, for spiritual guidance, and to clarify in readings. And before sessions, either in person or live. I clear my space with sage and rosemary infused agua florida, which is a water that is used, it's a cologne that is used in spiritual readings. Um, and I try to create a sacred space, focusing the environment on both myself and the person that I'm reading with. Emotionally, I try to ensure that I'm centered and balanced so I can show up fully for the querent or for the reading, even if it's for myself. Um, this preparation, it's not just for me, but in general, it's about creating a safe, sacred space for growth and clarity. In terms of third party readings, I take sort of like a middle ground approach to it. I don't believe that they're inherently unethical, but the intention behind the question matters. And if the focus is on helping the querent heal or try to move forward, I'm more than open to reframing the question to try to keep it in an ethical way. Like, for example, if someone asks, um, "What's my ex thinking about me?" I might try to reframe it as, "What do you need to know to let go of this relationship?" Or how can you find closure and move forward with confidence? This keeps the reading centered on the queer's journey rather than trying to introduce into someone's privacy or energy. I try to avoid true crime readings, particularly the contemporary ones or on ongoing cases, because to me sometimes they can cross boundaries in ethical ways. And I know that even though some readers approach true crime situation cases with the intention of helping, I prefer to focus my energy and my reading in empowering the querent and respecting certain boundaries. In terms of transparency and expertise, like I said, I see myself as a energy interpreter, and I use tarot and other divination tools to help people gain insight, clarity, and self-awareness. I don't claim to be a psychic or to have supernatural powers because those labels often imply certain unrealistic expectations. I'm clear about my abilities and my role. I read energy patterns and spiritual dynamics to help guide people towards understanding and empowerment. This transparency to me builds trust and ensures that both the querent and I approach the reading with sort of like a certain level of aligned intentions, right? um, in terms of ethical challenges. Like many readers, we face ethical challenges in our practices, like the grifters and scammers. And most of the time, it's very disheartening to see people exploit spiritual practices for profit. This kind of like reinforces the importance of transparency and integrity in our work. Hopping, when someone asks multiple readers like the same question, to me it often signals like a very deep need for spiritual healing. I gently try to ask or face these questions and try to address the root of concern. Ghosting in live readings, I don't know, it can be frustrating when someone requests a reading and then disappears, right? So I try to focus on those who are present and engage and ensuring that the energy flows and stays respectful. So to me, these challenges underscore the boundaries of sometimes that we face in terms of communication in trying to maintain an ethical and sustainable practice. One thing that is important to me too is the quality of the questions. The quality of Aquarian's question shapes the depth and the focus of the reading that they were trying to provide. So I try to encourage people to ask questions that promote growth and self-discovery. Things like, for example, instead of like asking, "Will I get a job?" I try to phrase it in a way or try to direct it as of, "What do I need to know about my career path?" Instead of, "When will I find love?" Things like, questions like that, we can phrase it as, "How can I prepare myself for a fulfilling relationship?" And in general, tarot and different divination tools thrive in on our intention, right? On our thoughts and in trying to find more meaningful and transformative insights. So to me, in general, the ethics in divination in general, they're about trust, respect, and trying to always create a safe space for growth and clarity. And all of us, whether whichever way you see yourself as, Our role should be to guide someone and help the querent explore their energies, their possibilities, and surrounding them with love, integrity, and compassion. And it's always going to be that ongoing journey, and we grow and learn through the process. And it's a big responsibility that the universe has put on us, and we should take it always, like I said, with love, compassion, and positivity. That's it.
Oh, you're so good with words, Ramon. Oh my goodness.
He's a Gemini.
um,
He's a
yeah,
Gemini. So
I just like to hear him talk. Just keep talking, and
right?
very relaxing.
Just keep
Thank
talking.
you.
Yeah,
he's
no.
modest. He's modest. I don't know why,
No.
but he can walk. He doesn't realize it as a Gemini. He can walk on this side and the other side and balance those energies out. That makes him a
Right?
fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. You brought up again, just as everybody has some very important topics. And I heard a couple people say already about being like balanced. We brought this up in part one as well about being well enough to be able to read, right? So
Hmm.
this is all energy work at the end of the day. So if I'm not feeling well, if I'm not balanced, I have no business in
Mhm.
reading for anyone, including myself, right? So I do think that that is very, very important that we know ourselves well enough to know, are we well enough to be able to read for somebody? And so rescheduling a reading or maybe canceling a live sometimes is for our own well-being as well as protecting those that we're reading for.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Hmm.
Um, and you mentioned about knowing your expertise, and I think that's also very important to know your expertise and stay in your lane. Don't pretend that you know things that you don't know. Like we have already alluded to, everybody's very good at specific things. So just focus on that and grow that, right? Like Gerald said, he's not an expert in runes, so he's not going to pretend that he is and offer rune readings because that's not where his strength lies.
Hmm.
And so that is also another segue into saying that it is okay to refer somebody to another reader that has those strong points, or even referring somebody out to seek medical attention or financial advice or legal advice, right? So just sort of
Mhm.
knowing your expertise and just really focusing on that, right? And not going outside of the lines, because it's okay to dabble in other things and try other things. But at the end of the day, um, giving false hope or false information to somebody is unethical, right? So we have to be careful that we don't overstep that. And one more thing,
One of the
rephrasing
coolest things I
questions.
ever learned was to how to say, "I'm not going to do that. I'm not reading that."
Right.
You know,
Yeah. And it's
and if
okay to say
you
that,
haven't learned
actually,
how to say that yet, you're going to learn. You need to learn how to say no.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. That like we have a right to say no to certain things that we don't feel comfortable reading on, right? And yeah,
Hmm.
that's definitely part of knowing our values and our boundaries as readers. And we were mentioning about rephrasing questions, and it was really interesting that Tom brought it up in a way that he was saying like even if you rephrase a question, we're still asking the same thing. And I get it. I definitely understand that viewpoint, and I respect that. But like rephrasing a question, and I believe I forget who now, somebody else said it that if you rephrase it in a certain way, it can actually be more empowering to the
Yeah,
queer and to the client. Oh, it
Ramon
was
said it, I
it
think.
was
it was
Ramon,
Jeff,
right?
I think.
I think Jeff. I think this was brought up in a couple of different
Well,
conversations, but
I
I'm just
brought it up as the energy of the question. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I
right,
said, but Ramon said uh, it's about rephrasing the question to get an answer. And someone in chat very aptly put it: the question or the answer is only as good as the question.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and let me just say
Mhm.
one thing, because like what I was saying was really specific to that, the third party thing. You know,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm not saying because people are asking for one thing and then they're still asking for that. They're just phrasing it a different way when,
Yeah.
but
Definitely, and I wanted to touch on that because I understand that, but I think, and I said this in part one as well, is that I personally don't feel comfortable reading on third parties, But when I'm asking or helping a client to rephrase it, it's really for me so that I can focus on what I need to tap into. So, it kind of throws me off sometimes when somebody's asking me, how does so and so feel about me? Well, I'm automatically thinking about so and so. I'm like, oh yeah, how does he feel about her? And you know what I mean? So like it's more for me really is like, okay, I don't want to focus on so and so. I need to focus on, like you said, the energy of the reading. So yeah, there's no doubt that that person's energy is going to be a part of the reading, but it's not going to be the focus of the reading. So I just wanted to share that. And yeah, like I appreciate all the insight because the third party thing has really kind of made me think between these two lives. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. All right. And now we have Jess. Hey.
Okay. Well, my perspective is mostly based on me being an empath and a psychic medium. And after, graduating from school and having a degree and all that, I had all of my ethics in place. And, my tarot tube life is completely different than, my energy practitioner life and my holistic, readings. Because I feel like certain platforms aren't really the space for specific things. And I say that because as someone who is an empath, when I get certain questions, and I haven't had a chance to sit with it for a minute or, read into it, because I always, would tell the people that I was reading with that I called it tarot by fire. I was like thrown in it, a group of people, and because everyone else read on it, I was kind of like, okay, well, I guess I'll read on it. And that's kind of how it started. And then I quickly, began to realize that as I'm tapping in, visions are coming, feelings are coming, pain is coming, all of these things that some people don't realize that certain people who have abilities will have or will encounter when they're reading. And so you can put all the protection up beforehand, but if there's a specific question about someone's, child or husband or whatever, and you start to read into that, and I've had that experience live, and I know many of you have probably seen it, where I wasn't expecting it to happen, and it affected me in a way that I had to stop and cut the show short, and cut my reading short. So for me, when it comes to like private readings and clients, I literally have like a liability form that I have them fill out, and it's kind of like a client. They fill it out as far as, because psychologically I'm coming from that aspect as well, learning parapsychology and how the brain works. So I think it's important when you're reading with somebody and you kind of are able to gauge, what it is they're going through. And it's not just kind of like we talk about surface level when you're reading online, like on YouTube. You can't really get that deep because it's just like fast questions. And so even the back and forth between, I feel like isn't even enough, because I feel like I would want to know more so that I could dig deep, because there's like literally that little amount of information that makes the big difference between, oh, this is what that card means. Okay, because sometimes I'm taking all this time and I really want to ask them this, that, and the other, but I'm pressed for time. People are chatting, sometimes it becomes a thing where you're just like, okay, I'm just going to finish reading. But there also has been times when we were talking about, reading like on crime or celebrities. I've had that encounter as well, where I'm reading on it and I'm not realizing, oh, this is not something, and I'm getting flashes and visions. And then afterwards, the people that I'm reading with, we all get similarly, kind of psychically attacked. So there's like this other aspect as far as how energy works and how it transfers. And when you tap into it, you can't always just let it go that easily. Sometimes it takes time after a show for me to get all of that off, because I get so invested when it comes to really trying to help somebody. And so then, let's say if it were a private, then we could get into some of the things that, I want to ask them, or things that I think are private that shouldn't be out there on YouTube, because they're asking the question and they might not even know that what I'm getting is something that's very, and so you either say, well, maybe we could talk about this offline, or sometimes I've even talked in code, like, telling them, what I mean, just to kind of get the hint to them. And as far as like third-party readings, like I said, the YouTube and the other side of it is totally different. I don't feel comfortable reading because I've done it before, and these are all lessons that I've literally had to learn with the experience doing this, live within the community where, I've read before and then they just keep coming back and coming back. And I feel like I become a crutch and they're not really doing the work. And they say, oh, yes, this, that, and the other. And then I keep wanting to ask them, let's go a little bit deeper, but you can't really do that during a live. It's that type of thing where I feel like it's almost just like a little bit of taste of what I do. And then if you come see me, we'll get deeper into it. And so there was a time where I just kind of had to reassess all of my my ethics in general, and including, reading within the community and figuring out what do I feel comfortable, because when you're on someone else's channel, it becomes a thing of like, well, you don't want to be rude, but you also want to keep your integrity and your values. And so that was something that I had to contend with because I wasn't doing my own shows on my own channel, which I would have these guidelines. But that's really where it started coming from, was the fact that it energetically affected me. And it became something that I really had to step away from and reevaluate stuff. And so that's kind of where I've been lately. And yeah, I think that there are some great readers out there that do great work within the community and really do help people. But there's just those few times when you're just getting that feeling that maybe this should be, another platform. And I've just always been that way, but more so now that it's affected me, physically, emotionally. So when I want to work with clients on the side, I want to, work mind, body, and spirit and integrate everything together and then show them the modalities and the ways to do that. Because my point is, I don't want you to keep coming back every week and relying on me, and then it becomes like a prediction addiction type of thing, where I want to give you the tools and teach you or your family or, whatever you're going through. And then you come back and we'll reassess and we'll work from there. And it becomes, like a system instead of just a weekly thing on the same question, if that makes sense.
100%.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yes,
Yeah, me
that's so
too.
important. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I like that prediction addiction, and it's such a reality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It really is. And I think that kind of circles back around to what we were referring to when, because Bobby touched on it, how people come into our chat and ask the same question to us or to, whatever. And here's the thing with that. I mean, I do agree with Bobby that different perspectives from different readers can be helpful to the current 100%. But there is this sort of fine line there between that and us becoming that crutch, like you said, or that dependent, when there's work to be done with every reading that we do, right? I mean, that there's certainly, you cannot not do work with the guidance that we're providing. Otherwise, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And there's some people who don't know how to do the work, don't want to do the work. And so part of our job is to, like you said, Jess, is to help them, develop those tools and give them homework, if you will, to help them unpack what we're delivering to them. And I have seen it firsthand here, where, the same question, the same people pop up. And the thing when we do readings, it's energy, and energy takes time to unfold. So asking the same question the very next day or even the very next week is not
Or the
beneficial
same
to.
night.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Or in the same night. Right.
And I've seen other readers get the exact same cards and the exact same answer
Yes.
for that same question, on and on. And so it then becomes a point of, okay, because 8 psychics said it, that means it's definitely going to happen. But it's always changing. There's always free will. And
right.
sometimes I get the sense that when they do go around and ask, lots of people, as though it's going to happen. And then when I've actually sat back on, off air and asked, like, well, are you, applying for jobs? Are you doing this? No. No, You're saying that, I mean, they're expecting that because 8 psychics said that they're going to get this job, that's going to happen, even though they didn't even like decide to really apply and do the steps that needs to be done. And so I wanted to make that clear, was that just because everybody gets the same reading, if you're not doing the work for yourself and moving, those steps, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing that we have to tell people as readers is that what we're tapping into or getting or whatever is, we're talking about a point in time when this is all kind of
Yes.
there, and there's so many factors that can change. That's why I don't like to say that I do anything that's divinatory or predictive in that sense, because there's so many factors outside of me, you, whoever, that's going to influence what you're doing, besides the whole free will aspect of everything. But that,
yes,
it's so hard to say. And yes, like you're saying, people do, they're like, oh well, this has been told to me, by 8 different readers, that so now I don't have to do anything because it's going to happen. And it's like,
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to jump in real quick, dears. I actually overstayed my time, but I heard Jill
Never.
speak. Never met her.
Yes.
Really wanted to
Well,
hear, and it was lovely meeting you. Thank you, everyone. I need to go.
Yes, her chihuahuas have her on curfew. You're past your curfew time.
This was beautiful, and thank you so much for inviting me. I hope to
Thank
be
you for being here.
the rest of you
Thank you
invite
for
me.
being here.
Thank
you for all of your input. Thank you.
Now
thank
get
you.
out so I can say thanks to Ange.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you, Mr. Odie.
All right, and
before Brian goes, Sadhana posted something that
yeah,
was,
I was just
there
gonna.
you go.
I was just going to say that we have great minds think alike there, Gerald. Yeah, I just want to say there's been a lot of great chat, and there is some things that I have starred. So just know that we appreciate everybody in all of the chat rooms. It's just that in a panel this large, we really have to keep the conversation going. So just know that you are valued, and thank you for adding to the conversation. Sadhana is another amazing reader in the community, and I would have loved to have her on this panel as well, but there was just so limited seats here. But this is really important. If you read here, have any of you said on a regular live tarot tube readings, I don't think that you're hearing me. You asked me the same question last week. If you want to take this deeper, please reach out for a private reading. Boom. I can definitely say I have not, but now that I have heard it in those words, Edna, I definitely would not be opposed to doing that, because that is a very polite but firm way to do it. And if anyone here has not been on Sadhana's channel and heard, that is very much what Sadhana is. She's kind, compassionate, but firm. And I love that about her. So thank you.
I had someone come in today asking a question that they've asked me 2 or 3 other times. And in the Celtic Cross reading, the first card that came out of the energy of the question was Magician reversed. And I said, clearly you're not doing enough, and that's why you're asking again, because you're not manifesting.
I remember you saying that.
And I went, look at what you got. So I would try to be cutesy about it and not hurt the person, because obviously they are coming from a place, but you have to set your own guidelines. I mean, that's
absolutely,
it depends on the person.
Even when I'm doing readings and trying to be polite, I'm still being funny and honestly harsh at the same time. Like, if somebody's asking me a question and I tell them, calm your tits. You need to fucking chill. All right. You need to back up and slow your ass down. I don't mind telling people that. I'm still a kind, compassionate reader that's going to tell you, slow the fuck down. But I do it with humor. That's my weapon.
Yeah, for sure. And we all have it.
When their guns blazing, that energy comes through to you, and you end up falling. You could fall into the trap of being like, okay, what? And then just blowing up. But so, it's a fine line.
You need to control the narrative, and if humor is what you have to do it, do it.
Yeah, and how they energetically come to us, that ties in perfectly what Jess was saying about how these readings energetically affect us, and they do. I mean, whether or not it's a good way of affecting us or a negative way of affecting us. You know, at the end of the day, yeah, these readings do affect us, and that is why, as Gerald pointed out, it's so important to sort of close out a reading, cleanse that away from you, because you could definitely be carrying that in with you into your life, and we definitely don't want that. Everybody's energies return to them, and then they can do the
That's
work.
a good point. At the end of every tarot session that I do, whether I'm at the office or whether I'm here at home, I cleanse before I step out of my sacred space.
Oh, for sure. Same here.
I'm not
Yes.
dragging cooties with me into my husband's
No,
spirit.
it's no different than washing your hands after every patient, right? Please do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you all. And then, Brian, certainly, last but not least.
Hey,
I mean,
boo.
it feels like a position of honor because I get to soak in what everybody's talking about all the way through. And, you know, I envision this scenario where what am I going to say if I'm the last? And here we are. But I've been thinking about this for a while, ever since Ange brought this whole topic up and invited me to join in. It's been on my mind. So whenever I had some quiet time, I just would think about, you know, it's not something I've formally laid out before, even though it's something that's on my mind. And one of the things that I really thought of first is what on earth does tarot mean to me in the first place? What do I bring to it, or what does it bring to me? And then by extension, what does it bring to people I might read for? And tarot for me is the great disruptor. So a lot of people have a lot of specific ties to it, whether it's spiritual or psychological or, you know, whatever it may be. And for me, there's a little bit of all of that. But I started thinking about cooking because that's something I really enjoy. And as a metaphor for what tarot is, I don't know if any of you are cooks out there or enthusiasts of cooking, but I don't know if you're familiar with the term fond. Fond is the little brown
French.
bits that form at the bottom of the pan after you sear something. And if you leave the heat on the fond, it'll eventually just burn, or it'll become the thing that you're trying to scrape out of the pan at the end of the night.
Can taste good.
But if you know what to do with it, it becomes the base of the thing that makes your meal magical. And you know, French chefs discovered this eons ago. And so for me, tarot is sort of like the thing that brings the fond to life as a disruptor. The fond is your thoughts. It's the thing that you bring in, or your querent brings into the reading. And those things, the fond can just go to waste, or you can throw some tarot cards at it. And what it would be is the cup of wine that you toss in the pan, and it stops that burn, and it changes everything, and it turns it into something pretty magical. And you can take it further by reducing it, and you can add things to it, and you can basically take what would otherwise be waste and turn it into something pretty incredible. So I think if we think of our querents and the folks that we're reading for, or ourselves, if you're reading for yourself, as that bit that could otherwise just kind of, your thoughts can run away with you. You can get bound up in that energy, and you need something to kind of break it up. And for me, tarot does a really good job of doing that. It can break things up because it can start to bring in some things you might not have otherwise thought of. And conceptual blending is often the term that's thrown around about what tarot can do in that sphere, and how it can be the great disruptor, I think. And I, you know, for me, from an ethical standpoint, knowing or feeling that it is the great disruptor and can be, you know, I spent years in the back of an ambulance and treating patients, responding to emergencies. And so ethics was the first thing that I had to experience as a working adult. I came out of high school. I went to school for that, and I hopped in the the back of an ambulance and I'm answering 911 calls, and ethics was huge. It was part of our training, but more than that, it was everything in the back of that rig. Sitting next to a patient, you have to make quick assessments, but you have to make interventions, but you have to hold somebody's hand. Sometimes that's what makes a difference. You can do a lot of things to there's medicines, interventions, all sorts of tools in our trade that could literally save lives. But at the end of the day, that's a human being, and there's a lot that you can do with small gestures and little things, and just recognizing them for their base humanity. And that's something that I think, carrying that into a realm like this, we're fortunate in that, I'm surrounded in this Brady Bunch panel of people that are concerned about that. And it's, it's on your mind. So you're willing to be on a panel like this and talk about it openly. So, I feel comfortable in people coming to you folks for readings, and, and that's great. But I think, for me, it's all about when that person pops in the chat, or better yet, if I can do a personal private reading for them, seeing their base humanity first, and doing everything according to that, and just understanding that the cards they're going to offer maybe some new perspectives, and some things that can help to break up maybe some stagnation in their life, or can help to open their eyes to things that maybe they didn't see before. And sometimes that's all it takes. But for us to be able to deliver that in a caring, compassionate way is critical. And it's not for me to judge why they came in and the way they came in, but the fact that they showed up is what is important.
Wow,
So
beautifully
good.
said.
That was awesome.
Mhm. Yes, that was like quote worthy, Brian. Let's go back and write that down. That was good. Yes. Oh wow, we're talking about food in the chat, and we're talking about McRibs and
Good.
rotisserie
Now I gotta
chicken.
back up on
I know, I'm so hungry now after hearing about the sauce.
Wow. Again, I'm so grateful that so many different things have been shared here and in chat. And I just want to kind of pause. I know right now we're kind of like at the 2 hour and 20 minute mark. So if anybody does need to leave, please don't be shy and just speak up, and that's okay that if you have to go. But for those that want to stick around a little bit longer, and if there's any other topics surrounding tarot ethics that you want to bring up, maybe that we haven't mentioned or that has been mentioned and you want to dive a little bit deeper into it, there are just a couple things in chat that were mentioned that I do want to point out because I don't want to overlook it. So earlier, I don't even know if Lexi's still here, but Lexi said authenticity is a very tricky concept because you could swear up and down that you're being authentic, but ultimately presenting oneself online is very curated, and we must accept that for what it is.
It's a vacuum. I agree with that. And it is a medium that I think we present ourselves in a certain way that, by virtue of the fact that it's virtual, it's to some degree tricky to think of it as absolutely real. So as far as curating goes, though, that implies some sort of effort on our part, when I hear it personally, to pick and choose or not be authentic. I don't know, or decide what you're going to do and how you're going to do it at every point when you're doing the reading. So I don't know if that's necessarily the way I would put it. Curating. That's where the ethics come in, and that's where you pull back, or you know what I mean? It doesn't really have to do with the vacuum that is YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I just wanted to, that was an interesting comment, so I just wanted to
I
point it
like
out.
it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely has merit to it for sure. And then I think Heather left, but she did say earlier gatekeeping can be an issue too, and that would be a possible topic for
Yeah.
discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge
That's a
topic
big
all in
one.
itself for sure. And I mean, I think there's gatekeeping
That's
in
my
every community.
challenge. Yeah, there's gatekeeping in every community. That is one of my
Yeah,
major challenges when I see people in life and on YouTube, who my first impression is, well, I wouldn't get a reading from them, but I'm not going to run and go tell everybody else. Are you sure you should go to their channel? Are you sure you should do this? That's not me. Okay, that's not
right.
my role. That's not my job. Right? I'm not the gatekeeper of YouTube. So
Yeah, or just the craft in general, right? Like gatekeeping, like you said, how someone reads, or I mean, gatekeeping is a whole thing that we
yeah,
could
it's a
go into
big
different
thing.
avenues, right? But yeah, that is something
I've
to be
had
mindful of.
people that don't want to get readings from me because of the gods that I work with, because they think there's going to be an evil energy entering the room. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question. Um, and even other readers, Ramon's chuckling over there. I'm thinking he's been up
Yeah,
against this
I can relate
before.
to that because I work with Santa Muerte, and a lot of people have like, I mean, it's a lot of it is misinformation or lack of
Yes.
information.
Hmm.
They think it's something dark, but it's totally the opposite.
Yeah,
So I
Yes.
can
there's
relate to that.
Hecate, Santa Muerte, the Morrigan, Lilith. These are all goddesses that put people on edge when they first hear
Hmm.
about them. But yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's just, yeah. Go ahead.
I want to go back to Lexi's comment about the idea of the curating. I
Oh,
think
sure.
it's part of as content creators, we have to understand and figure out how much of my non YouTube life do I want to share with everybody.
Yes. Yes.
That's a decision
There you go.
only you, the person who is the content creator,
Mhm.
can make. And
Mhm.
and I think it's so very important to understand. For a long time I was teasing people. It's like going, you only see me from here up. I do have a waist and I have legs.
And no pants.
No pants.
Pants. I do have pants.
Yes.
Lies.
Like,
No.
there's pants.
And
They're
long pants.
meggings, because if you're not wearing meggings, you're not doing readings. But so I think it's important that I watch some people, and what they're comfortable with sharing is not something I'm comfortable with sharing.
Right.
It's okay. Everybody, you
Yes.
do you, kids.
And
Yeah,
and
this is
that's
a
it.
public
That is a
public forum.
true. That's a very good point. Because in reality, how you have to translate, y- you know, real life, or maybe real life is not the right word, but it's a different format, you know, in person versus online. So you have to like try to translate into this totally different dimension to be able to share readings, interact, and then at the end, like, what do you define as authenticity? If what you are, that's like going back to gatekeeping, right? Who defines what is authentic, or what is the authentic you? Because in
Exactly.
reality we have different facets in our life. I'm the
Yes.
son, I'm the brother, I'm the boss, I'm the
Yep.
boyfriend. It's
Yep.
there are different
What
sides
is
of who we
objective
are,
reality?
and what
Mhm.
you present is your authenticity in this format.
Very much.
That's right.
Simple.
Very well said. Yes, for sure. And I think it goes back to what we were saying in terms of not everything is for public consumption. I mean, very simply put. And
Exactly.
actually, Rain and I talk about this in the shame and vulnerability piece of Beyond the Veil. And actually, tomorrow's part two of that conversation, if anybody wants to tune in. But yeah, we talk about vulnerability and how not everyone is privy to certain information in your life. It's very simply put. And, when someone like us who are content creators and we put ourselves literally out here for the world to consume, you're damn right that we have a choice of what we're going to put out here
Mhm.
and what that's going to look
Hmm.
like. Does that make us inauthentic? Hell no. As a matter of fact, just putting ourselves out here is authentic and vulnerable and courageous. But yeah, certainly what people are
Mm-hmm.
allowed to see of me on here, yeah, that's
It
totally
means we
To
my,
have
me, it's more
boundaries.
real.
yeah,
It means we
boundaries.
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
boundaries and we're sticking to them.
No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that.
no, and you're making an effort of trying to present something good, something
Right.
positive, something of value, you know?
Right.
You're making
Right.
an extra effort, and it's not faking things. You're just trying to make I don't know, curating. You're creating it to try to bring positivity at the end.
That's
There's
right.
also a part of it that, so like I wear this hat every time I'm on here, and I have this background, and I have, whatever. And for me, this is an authentic part of me that I get to share in this community that I don't get to share in my regular life.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
that's an important
Mm-hmm.
thing for me. This is
Yeah.
something that, luckily, I have a wonderful family that embraces this and is excited for me to be able to do this. But outside of my home, the only people that know I do this are in this room and subscribe to my channel. Nobody else in my life, nobody at work, nobody else. So this is a time where I get to be an authentic part of myself that I don't get to express anywhere else.
There
And
you go.
I treasure it.
This is Brian's
Uh-huh.
drag.
That's right. Exactly. Presentation counts. Right. Absolutely. I believe. Yeah. Like we take pride in what we do in our channels. Like, and it
Mm-hmm.
shows. Every single one of us has this unique personality. We all bring something different to the table, and that is part of being authentic. Is just
I know what I bring to the party.
you bring the party. Come on, Bobby. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Wow. Okay. Certainly, if you want to bring up anything else, go ahead. I just wanted to get to, I know Jane, she's probably not here still, but what do you do when a family member shows up from the other side? See, I think we're talking about like third party, and for me personally, I don't consider someone who's passed over a third party because they're in spirit form, and technically, I can actually
They're
connect
in
with
the
them
room.
here because they're in spirit. But maybe
Right.
somebody else on panel has a different perspective on that.
I think a lot of the things that we're touching on are just very, very subjective. It,
Yeah.
depends. And I feel like there's definitely a lot of gray space. And, each one of us has to kind of navigate these situations as we come across them, because
Yeah.
there's things that today I might say, yeah, no, I don't do that. But then tomorrow I might just feel like it. So it depends on the situation. There's so many different factors that you have to take into consideration with a lot of these, subjects that we're touching on today. I don't
Mhm.
know that there's like a hard and fast line that can be drawn.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Absolutely.
I think Jeff made a good point on his show when he was kind of talking about getting ready for this show, about, where do you have the hard stop or say no this time, and then will it offend them? If they come in and you're normally reading and you decide not to, or, for whatever reason, because after a while, sometimes the energy can shift and change. And
Mm.
at least I can sometimes sense that either things got a lot worse or it's something that doesn't need to be talked about now. And I almost can't believe that they want to do this right here. But it becomes a weird way to navigate, where, like you said, it stops here and I won't do that, but maybe depending on the circumstance, I may do it. It's literally, you just kind of have to play it by ear sometimes.
Sometimes you can feel the energy and how bad it is. I mean,
Yes.
that's a hard stop for me personally.
Yeah.
If I'm
Yep.
getting shakes and I'm getting chills and I'm getting sick, and I have had that happen, or dizzy, I will stop.
Yeah, and that's another important part about knowing who you are as a reader. And like you said, maybe some physical symptoms will show up, and knowing when to say no. Say, okay, we're gonna, this reading, like I'm gonna stop this reading now, and it's okay to do that because you're in control of that, and vice versa. If the person you're reading for is like, hey, well, I'm not comfortable with this, it's okay. The reading can stop there and they can come back and it can finish, or maybe they don't want to hear the rest of it. It's perfectly valid, absolutely. There was one
I just wanted to
question
point one
here
thing out
earlier.
when she was
Oh, I'm
talking
sorry,
about.
Jess.
No, it was just one point when she was talking about people coming from the other side. There are some circumstances where I've had people come in from the other side and from a question, in the chat, and they will tell me, do not tell them on this platform. This is not the place at all to talk about
Okay.
And it's been
Yep.
live before. I know I've seen it in a couple of lives that I've done where we get the no from them, and we just kind of have to say at the right time, maybe another time. And I've had the dead tell me, we're not talking about it. Yeah. So I mean, they've got their hard rules too.
Yeah, that's really an interesting perspective. I never actually thought of that, we can have our boundaries, but spirit has theirs too. Yeah,
They
for
do.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I just maybe I haven't gotten it in that way of somebody spirit telling me no, but definitely energetically shifting, I can feel it. I can feel that there's like a tenseness, you know what I mean? Or I get some physical symptoms. So I can definitely feel when, like you said, I don't know if we
Yeah.
should tread into this side of the reading. Maybe we'll
Or there's a
veer
void
off the
that
other
you
way.
feel coming through
Mhm.
the screen or backwards.
Yeah.
It's weird. You don't know if you're being attacked energetically or
Yes, it's like
like
a
Jess and I
push-pull
have felt
thing.
that. Where, but we felt it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I
And that's
have a
why our energetic
question.
protection is so important. Sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
Do you guys know who Ashley Viard is?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Over the past year or so, Ashley Viard is or was a tarot psychic on TikTok.
Oh yeah,
And
she goes to
I
Ashley's
bring,
God. She's from Texas.
woo, yeah. So
Okay. Yeah.
Idaho, maybe she was in Texas, but the story was in Idaho. What this
Yeah.
woman did was a true
Yeah.
crime reading, a true crime reading. She
Yeah.
used her tarot cards to follow a case, accused a teacher of murdering 4 of her students, having an affair with one of the female students, and instead, once they caught people, this woman backed it up at every possible chance. She doxed this woman. She got her community involved. She went to police. No proof at all. She turned this woman's life upside down. Right? Harsh.
Bobby,
It was awful.
that
What's that?
woman, that woman that you're talking about, that she, the professor, was my husband's
Yeah.
old professor.
Are you lying to me? Oh my God, that poor woman.
We're
I'm
watching.
sorry to say it like this, but this
No,
bitch went after her. It was
yeah,
brutal. So
I
when I
know.
say people listen to our words,
And you
people
can be
listen
legally
to
responsible.
our.
She's getting sued.
Yes,
She's
she's
getting
getting
sued. Yeah.
sued. She wants to flee the country. And once it all came out, she still doubled down and said, "Well, no, this is because she was having this gay affair with the student, and she hired the guy who killed her. She was behind it, even though this guy killed her."
Yeah, it was a
It was
fantastical
ugly.
story. Yeah, it got
Look
ugly.
it
Yeah,
up,
and so
please.
yeah, they're right
This
next door. Idaho's right next door to us, and so Wazoo, where all that went down, that was my husband's college. So we know a lot of the people that were involved. So when this woman came out, and then of course people, were kind of like, oh, she's giving, at this point, I was telling my mom, I was like, now she's giving, real tarot readers a bad name at this point because she's on TikTok running around saying the spirit told her. She's telling the judge that she had a spiritual witness. That was her
She
defense.
countersued when the woman that she blamed sued her for defamation. She countersued, and do you know what her defense was? Spirit told me it's true, so it's true.
Yeah.
Literally, word for word. That is what she said. I read it with my cards. It's true. Spirit said it's true. So please, please, anybody watching this who is thinking of doing online readings like this, please know that you bear a certain sense of responsibility. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
won't
We
do
have to hold ourselves accountable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
She gave us all a bad name by that. It was bad.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that's a one story. So Brienne, I almost started my channel in 2018, but I had a setback. I thought about it since 2016, but I love our community, but just so much to consider with boundaries. Oh, Brienne, I would say yes. And the fact that you are taking the time to think about these things before you launch your channel says a lot about you. Yeah, for sure. And so I would say don't let it hold you back. It can be scary to take the leap, but certainly your voice is needed out here. And I say this to everybody who wants to start a channel.
I
Don't
was
be intimidated
terrified.
by the amount of, yeah, it is. And don't be
Gerald
intimidated
scared
by
the
the
fuck
amount
out
of
of me.
channels, because you are different from anybody out here, right? So I'd say definitely do it. There is a lot of people you can turn to. Certainly I can say you can reach out to me if you have any questions. I know there are people right here on this panel that I've reached out to say, help, how do I do this thing on StreamYard, or how do I, and everybody is just always willing to help. So don't think that you don't have support out here. And good for you for considering what your values and your boundaries are before launching a channel. I think that speaks a
Yeah.
lot to who you are.
Yeah.
All right. And then Beth was just mentioning, how do people handle a client who has a very magical view of tarot? Like we can have a wave a magic wand and make things better for them. They don't understand that the cards, and this is what we were talking about doing the work. And
Yeah.
she was saying the magic wand syndrome, and also that goes back to people who potentially, sort of use us as a crutch, like Jess was saying, right? To kind of we're giving them guidance and empowerment, but then they're not following through. But I think it's just our job to try to remain as patient as possible. I know sometimes it can get frustrating, but I think that in any line of work, we have those challenges with
Yeah.
people, right? Whether they be our colleagues or clients, customers, whatever you want to call it, right? I think that just trying to
Yeah.
stay focused. Yeah. Gerald, go ahead.
It is one of those things that I do when I'm having a one-on-one reading. I do ask people what do they know of tarot and if they've ever had a reading before, because it's my opportunity to clear up some misconceptions and to clarify what it is that I'm bringing to this. It also gives them the opportunity, and I use it to say, does it sound like what I can do for you? Is that what you need, or is that what you want? So I do pause, and I do it the first time that I do readings with anybody, especially privately, because I want them to first of all, it does inform me what their experience is. So if I have to backpedal and correct anything, especially for that wand. So
Well said.
Absolutely.
Really good.
I gave a lecture last week at a psychic fair on Thoth Tarot, and it all went swimmingly, great talk, but the last 5 minutes was dedicated to talking about the Tree of Life and its angelic and demonic associations in Kabbalah. This guy walked in. All he saw was the last 2 minutes when I was talking about the demonic associations with tarot. He didn't see the rest of the talk, and he avoided me for the rest of the day. So that just pissed me off. I had to throw that out
Yeah,
there. Sorry.
for sure. Well, I mean, if they don't want to listen to the whole presentation, then they're, missing out on a lot of information there. I just want to point out for Brienne that's watching, you also have Sadna. She says she's happy to help you tarot tubers. So, and she's an excellent resource. She's has an amazing channel. I know Gerald has been very helpful in the community, is always willing to help pretty much anybody here. Yeah. So, yeah, please reach out, if you are wanting to know how to do something, how do you use StreamYard, or how do you even create a channel? We're happy to guide you for sure. All right. So, is there anything else that anybody else wants to bring up or
I do.
mention?
I do. I don't
Brian's a
know
great resource
about
too.
the rest of the panel here, but when you get your downloads or you get whatever, do they come from some of the strangest things? Like, for instance, 6 months ago, I was going through the manuscript of my next book, right? And the poem I had written about Donald Trump, for whatever reason, was in the 47th position. I'm like, oh shit. And everyone was in the, I mean, I know you're not reading in the political space, but to me, that was a sign. And then I had been reading a little bit before and a little bit after that the opposition was in trouble. And he did end up winning. So I'm just wondering if anybody has, just to bookend this on my end, because I'm just curious, if there are multiple divination tools you use, or if there are ways that you get downloads about things that come into you that aren't conventional.
So, Jeff, are you saying we should blame you?
That's what I heard.
There's no other way to interpret that.
I'm like this. I'm like this, and I'm like, my guides are telling me this. I mean, this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we open ourselves up, like this is for me, like me personally, because I'm always open to watching for signs, and it could be something that comes on the radio really quickly. It could be something I see out in nature. And I think it all ties in. I mean, certainly, when I'm doing a reading like this, I'm certainly taking into account of what's going on around me. I think I mentioned this in the other one about, if there's like a siren outside, I take that into consideration when I'm doing the reading. Like, I think that whatever's happening is all part of the reading, and I try to tie that in.
Yeah,
And sometimes, like you
synchronicities. I'm
said,
wondering,
right,
if people out there get
exactly.
those a lot, because I do.
Yes.
I do.
I do too, yes. And I think that the more we open ourselves up and the more we trust our abilities, the more of the synchronicities come in. And that is very important to put into the reading. And a lot of people doubt themselves with that, like, oh, that was just this and that. But very much just like you pointed out, you put that together, and that was meant to be part of that reading and that outcome. So yeah, for sure.
I definitely get a lot of synchronicities, and I receive a lot of messages in my dreams too.
Very
If I have a dream, I know it's a prophetic dream because I never remember my dreams, only the prophetic ones. Luckily, they're very few and far behind. I mean, far between.
Yeah, dream work can be exhausting. I know, to try to remember it and to try to jot it down. And I certainly try to do it as much as I can, but sometimes I'm just so exhausted that I don't actually remember all of my dreams. But there was like a weird one that I shared the other day when Jeff actually did a live with Care Bear, and they do these dream readings sometimes. And I think it's such a really cool space to be able to just kind of unpack like a weird dream that you had and to see what comes out in the cards. And actually, what came out for my reading was like, hey, wow, this absolutely makes sense. And so I really appreciate them doing that as well.
I had a great reading from Jeff and Karen that night too.
Oh,
it made me make a connection that I never would have made before. And
yeah,
that's what tarot's the best. That's the best aspect of it, but it just shows you things you otherwise wouldn't have taken note of.
Yeah, and that's one of those situations where if I pulled tarot cards on my dream, I would have never come out with that, what they came out with for me, right? So that's a really good example of reaching out to somebody else. Not that I even thought to reach out for a tarot reading on the dream, but since they were there and they were live and I had this dream, I thought, hey, I'm supposed to ask these people about this dream. So.
Exactly. And this was a dream that I had years ago that is still stuck with me that I was thinking about. And it was interesting because it's the exact same thing. I wasn't going to ask about it. And then it was just like, you know what? Why not? This is the perfect time. And the dots that got connected were perfect.
I think it's really important that, and I've done a show on this, about understanding your baseline, Jeff, as you're talking about how you get those downloads. If it's important for you and it has over time shown up multiple times that when you're working with something in print, that message, that's like a form of bibliomancy. Oh my gosh, I never would have connected that. Whereas Brian might see something while he's cooking, I don't know if that's true, Brian.
Like scrying? Is he scrying
Yeah,
while
it's like
frying?
scrying. But I think all of us are individuals, and we have our own connections with whatever energies we work with. And as Ramon was talking about, that energy readings, and I think it's just important to pay attention and notice it. Don't discount it.
Yes.
Play with it and
Play
go,
with it.
I wonder what that means.
And
if it takes you
absolutely,
game, play with it, right?
To write it
Yeah,
down.
I mean, you
so that
don't.
it's not observed. And then a lot of times you can go back and realize I didn't even think that this was connected to something that happened, you know, a year ago, or you know, things like that have happened just recently where I've had dreams that now I'm realizing are coming true within the community, that I'm seeing people go through stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's what that was about. Okay. And one of them, you know, was Jeff. So I think it's interesting how everybody connects depending on, you know, the frequency in which they line up.
Yes. Yes, and we all have a line in, and I always think about this. I had back in the day, some family members of mine worked for telephone companies where they actually had the physical lines that they have to unplug and plug into other parts. And I
Oh
always
my
have that
God,
visual in
mine
my
did too.
mind,
Yeah.
right? So I always think about we're all connected in different ways to different lines, and it's really cool how sometimes those lines sort of interconnect and yeah. So that's really cool.
That's crazy.
So, you know Chris Butler. We all know Chris Butler. When we talk about the switchboard, my switchboard is represented kind of like the design on the back of those cards, but it's this way. This is the earthly realm down here at the bottom. This is the heavenly realm where the spirits reside, and this is me right in the middle, playing intermediary between the two. So that's the vision I keep.
That's cool, like the vessel.
The mandorla.
Yeah, the
Chris
mandorla.
Butler's always with me.
Exactly.
He's always with me.
Him and Gerald and Ramon were the three men who are basically responsible for all the bullshit that I do on my channel. They encourage me. They encouraged me to start it. You created this
For
monster.
entertainment purposes only. Do not blame me for anything Bobby does on his channel.
Aww.
He is his individual self.
That take a life of its own.
I used to send him messages all the time. How the hell do I do this? What am I doing? What's going on? It's like breathe.
And that's when I started to use your words against you. Calm your tits.
Yeah. Calm your tits. He really did. He seriously did. That sucker.
Oh my goodness. Well, everybody, we are approaching the 3-hour mark. I know my bladder's full, so I'm gonna get going. But if there's anything else that anybody wants to say before we leave, I want to make sure that everybody has said everything that they wanted to say and share in the space.
Thank you, Ange.
Thank you.
Yes,
This is a very cool topic. I would like to say that this weekend on Friday the 13th, I have Sasha Graham on my channel for Behind the Cards. And I'm very excited about that.
Humble brag.
Yes.
Wow,
Humble
fancy
brag
pants.
stuff. Well, I wouldn't have had the balls to ask her in the first place if it wasn't for my tarot tribe. So I thank you all.
Sasha's very, very like chill. Oh my gosh, she's so humble. Like you would never
The
know
thing
that she's
is that I've been a fan of hers since she was a horror actress. I used to watch her movies. I worked at a video store all the time. So to get her on my channel is like, I'm worried I'm going to pee myself, basically.
Aw. She's so sweet. You'll love her. Her energy's amazing. I've seen her on many different channels, Bobby, and congratulations for, for reaching out. I think that's another really important thing, when you have a channel, and you have like, very clear intentions of what spaces you want to create, and then you start to like develop like a little bit more courage to try something new, to try something different, to reach
Bobby,
out to
I don't mean to
another
cut you off. Aspasia's asking what time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, let me see. It is going to be on Friday the 13th at 12 noon Mountain Time, Arizona time. So I don't know where you're at, but 12 Arizona time. subscribe and hit the notification button, and that'll come up for you.
Yeah,
There you
so
go.
all of the channels, everybody here on panel, including Miss Taro D that had to leave, all of the channel links are below in the description. So be sure to check everyone out. And I just wanted to point out one more thing before we go, and that is that Kim from Abundant Life Tarot was on part 1 of this last week, and she actually has something, and I didn't know about this until now. Let me see if I can share this for you. It's not going to share on my screen. Why? Okay, well, anyway. I have listed it below in terms of her Etsy shop. I'm having problems with my computer here. I do apologize. Okay, well, anyway. And now I'm not able to get out of this. Oh dear gosh. Anyhow, she has something on her Etsy channel that is for people who specifically would like to have like a tarot related business. And it's called Your Ethics and Your Psychic Spiritual Business. It's a video series and workshop. It's very reasonable. I think it's like $15 or something like that. But in that workshop that she offers, she also recommends a book called The Ethical Psychic. All right. And so I had it all lined up so that I could share screen, and now my laptop has locked up on me. So I will just leave it to you that if it's something of interest to you, go ahead and check it in the description. As well, as Gerald pointed out at the beginning of the show, there is a show that he did with Deb Purple Elephant on tarot ethics a while ago. So check that out. Anna from Astral Lady Tarot was talking about it, as well as, I'm sure there's many more conversations around this, but those are the 3 that stood out to me that I shared in the description. Again, if you would like to share your voice around tarot ethics, go ahead and make a VR and use hashtag tarot ethics so that you can be part of the conversation. And if you don't want to make a video, just go ahead and put it in the comments section so that we can carry on this conversation. So yeah, I think that we're going to end it here. And I just really, really would like to thank everybody who joined us in chat, anybody who's watching playback, and of course to everybody here on panel for taking the time and holding the space for this conversation. I really do
And to
appreciate it all.
you,
Thank you.
Thank
to you,
you.
thank you. Excellent work in putting together this topic and the panel and 2 shows and keeping it fantastic, you know. And as you said, this is going to be an ongoing conversation, and great that you started it. So thank you for bringing that into light here in the community. So great job.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Thank you all so much. All right. So we're going to end it here. And normally I would chat with you all backstage, but it
You
is
got a
locked up my
pity.
screen. No, it is locked up my screen, so I can't even end the stream without clicking out of my whole laptop. So I'm going to say goodbye from here. I'm so sorry about that. But anyway, technology sometimes fails us. So
Yeah.
you all take care. Have a great night. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And I'll see you all on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Blessings to all.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's the way we became the Brady Bunch.
We can
Good
take
night,
over the
everybody.
channel. We can take over the channel, right?
Oh no, we're still
Love
live.
to all of you.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. Now it's time to eat. I'm starving.
Bye.
Bye.